honestly, it seems like you were being a bit of a curmudgeon at the wedding. I'm going to be honest. And I don't even like weddings, and I certainly don't like having to make small talk with people that I don't know. Two of my least favorite things. That being said, like, it's not your fucking day. Just suck it up and go. Jesus Christ.
You don't have...
Welcome to Guys
Hello, fuckers. Where you been? How you doing? Did you drink enough water today? Welcome to another episode of Guys We Fucked.
It's the Anti-Slut Shaming Podcast. I'm Corinne Fisher.
I'm Christina Hutchinson.
Welcome to the show. If you are in the Pacific Northwest, listen up. Eye of the Tiger Tour is headed to you next. Let's go through the dates. My phone is charging, so I'm going to do it from my memory. Portland, Oregon, May 14th. San Francisco, May 15th. Sacramento, May 16th. Seattle, Washington, May 17th. Shows are basically sold out, so we added a date, Saturday, May 18th. There are 2 additional new shows there for Seattle. And then moving forward to June, let's see what date, late June, guys. I'm gonna be at Houston, Texas, and Austin, Texas. So make sure to get those tickets now. That's good, coming along, sooner than we think it is. Thank you, Christina. And so it's June 27th is Houston, and then June 28th and 29th is Austin, Texas, and September 26th is Salt Lake City, Utah. Tickets at CorinneFisher.com. All shows feature Chloe LaBranch. See you there. Exclusive merch, fun times, meet and greets. We love it.
Woohoo! If you want to email us, it's sorryaboutlastnightshow@gmail.com. Today's subject line, is it the ick or am I incapable of intimacy? 2 very different options.
Could be somewhere in the middle.
Dear Corinne and Christina, I always spell my name wrong once. That's cute.
Nice.
I am recently a new fucker. I can't believe it took me so long to find your show. I fucking love it. I'm a 38-year-old female. I have been single for over 7 years, and a few months ago, for the first time in all of those years, started dating a guy who I could finally get excited about and was ticking a lot of boxes. He's emotionally available, sick, communicative, hell yeah, looking for a partner as well. That's a great one.
That's a good important one.
That's a real important one, and has a lot of other lifestyle qualities that match up with what I've been looking for. We have known each other for a long time, 8 or 9 years. Ooh, that's cool too. And we actually had a brief romance about 8 years ago, just before I got together with my last boyfriend. So, a few months ago, we got together and went out on a couple of dates, and the spark seemed to have reignited, so we jumped right into dating a little faster than I really wanted to. I think this was partially because we already had some history and trust between us, and also because we both had large vacations coming up that we knew we wouldn't be seeing each other for a while. So we had 2 hot weeks together, then we went on holiday for a month, and when he got back, we got another 2 hot weeks together, and then I went on holiday for a month. Y'all be going on holidays for a month? Talk about a reset. That sounds great. While we were each away, respectively, we were sending a lot of messages back and forth, especially him. He sent tons of pictures, and during both the holiday times, I definitely got a bit tired of all the messaging. I found it to be a bit tedious towards the end. Yeah, I do too. About a week after I got back from my time, we had made plans to hang out and then go out with friends and have an afternoon/evening doing things that I really didn't want to do. That night, I was annoyed and didn't want to have sex with him. That's what happens when you do a day of shit going good. I felt the ick started to creep in, but also was aware of the fact that being in a relationship means sometimes doing things that you don't want to do, so I thought I'd get over it. Then, the following summer, we went to the wedding of one of his best friends. He had invited me to this wedding when I was away, and I got excited because I usually love weddings. In hindsight, I feel like I should not have gone, because I had never been to a wedding as a +1. Oh, wow. And didn't really think about how hard it would be not knowing anyone. That's true. And having to attempt to make conversation with strangers. I should also mention that I live in Spain. He is Spanish, and my Spanish is good but not excellent, which makes chatting to strangers even harder. So I did not have fun at the wedding. I did my best to smile and not be the grumpy bitch in the corner. Good for you. But I kind of was. He introduced me around and tried to make me feel comfortable, but ultimately I left the party earlier than planned and went home on my own. Ever since I got back from my holidays, I've just been feeling like he is too much. Too much texting, too much PDA. He kisses me a lot while we're out and about, even in front of his friends. too many gifts. Ugh, what a monster.
Well, it seems like he's from Spain, and you're from, where are you from, like England or something?
England or Australia, where it's not as like, my love.
Yeah, the culture is different. There's a culture problem here.
Yeah, and so what you're seeing is too much. His culture probably is like, this is what you do when you love someone or like someone. Too many gifts. He's given me 3 little gifts in the past couple weeks. I've been back, including a ring right before he went to the wedding. That's a weird gift. He joked about us being the next ones to get married. Okay. Once just to me, but also to the wedding. Really freaked me out. Sometimes guys don't say anything though. You know? Sometimes a guy said that once and then he didn't mean it, but I wanted him to. He didn't mean it, so we talked about all this the other day, and I told him that all felt a bit too much, and I need to slow down. And when I said that, he asked me if I wanted to slow down or if I'm just not interested, and I didn't know how to answer. I really don't want to string him or myself along, and it is important to me to be honest and able to say how I feel, but I'm just not sure. I have done a lot of reading and work on myself, especially in the arena of dating and my intimacy issues in the last few years, so I can sometimes get way too analytical about these things and overthink to the point of exhaustion. I am afraid I have gotten so accustomed to being single that I don't know how to let people in. Okay, totally. But also, and also, like, just having to worry about yourself is nice. It's nice. But also, I'm thinking that maybe this guy is just too intense for me. He has made me really sad. It has made me really sad thinking that it might not work out in the end because I think I put a lot of pressure on him since it has been so long since I've dated a nice guy. It turns out I used to have really low self-esteem and dated assholes in my 20s. Yeah, welcome to the woman. Also, since the ick started to creep in, I have been focusing more on his qualities that I don't like, such as the physical attraction. He is shorter than I am, which is not a deal breaker, but he also just has a really small frame and is skinny, so I feel big around him, and I'm not big. I'm kind of a skinny bitch. He works very long days and often doesn't get time for lunch, and his eating and sleeping habits are super irregular. So ultimately, he doesn't really take great care of his physical body, which is likely why I am not so attracted to his physical body. Okay, well that's a bit low. If you're not attracted to his physical body, then that's not a good recipe for a relationship. Sex is great, but I'm finding myself now not getting excited to sleep with him, and I know that 3 months in is too soon to have already lost desire to sleep with a man. So I guess what I'm wondering is if I just jumped in too soon and this isn't the right guy, or if I'm still too guarded to let a man in. Any insight would be much appreciated. Sincerely, another dumb bitch.
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I think it's completely normal for you to like get turned off by somebody who's more like you're interpreting his PDA, his gifts as maybe neediness, which neediness is and I can be a needy person, but like when I sense neediness in another, I'm like it's like repellent. I can't. I hate it. So maybe interpreting it like that is the issue here. It doesn't seem like he's doing anything. He doesn't have to do anything royally bad or fucked up or have like a fucked up eye for you to go, you know what? No. You could just not like him anymore.
Yeah, and also I think like the things that you're describing, like if you're getting like if I got 3 small gifts from someone I was kind of about, it would probably turn me off. Whereas if I was already really excited about a guy and I got 3 small gifts from him, it would make me like him more.
Yeah.
So I think that's just kind of like telling you what it is, right? Like I think you guys are mismatched, but I totally understand. Like the longer you stay single, the longer you realize like how good and easy and peaceful it is to be alone, right? I mean, I can't even remember the last time I was in a fight, you know? And that's because of being single. And it's nice, but you know, you just have to, it's like, what do you want? Like, so single, you're always gonna have this kind of like pretty like steady medium that you're always like leveling at, like a steady happiness. Whereas when I think you're involved in relationships, you'll get more high highs but more low lows. So it's just like which of those do you want? You know, sometimes you want to feel the high highs, and I don't even mind the low lows sometimes. And there are certainly, you know, low lows in regular life too, but it's mostly when someone dies or like you get fired or something like that, your dreams don't come true. A little excessive.
Pretty low low.
Whereas in a relationship, like little fights and stuff can turn into low lows.
He said something.
Yeah.
Fucked up your day.
Like that's actually not in the big scheme of things important, but when you're in a relationship, things get put under a magnifying glass, right? So I think you have acknowledged that you have been on your own too long. So like if you have decided that you're ready to be in a relationship, you have to really enter it fully and don't be the fuck boy that has fucked you over so many times, you know, because girls can be fuckboys just the same as guys can be fuckboys.
It's true.
So you don't want to do that to other people. Again, I think you're mismatched. I also think in some things, like, you got to ease up. Like, okay, so, like, it's the first couple of months, like, he takes you to a wedding, you don't speak the language. It's honestly, it seems like you were being a bit of a curmudgeon at the wedding. I'm gonna be honest. And I don't even like weddings, and I don't like, and I certainly don't like having to make small talk with people that I don't know. Two of my least favorite things. That being said, like, it's not your fucking day. Just suck it up and go. Jesus Christ.
You don't have to have the most fun at every single thing you do.
It's not your wedding.
Right. And I, as somebody who, like, tries to have the most fun all the time as much as I possibly can, like, that's just a scenario where you, like, just be curious and, like, look at people and make observations, and I don't know, like, have a good, you can 100% have a good time.
Yeah.
That scenario.
Yeah, try new foods. Find one person that you like. Honestly, a lot of times my go-to is if there's kids, I hang out with the kids, which as a woman you have the luxury of doing without looking creepy.
Won't be creepy.
And because kids are, they don't have to speak your language. They can always be refreshing and fun and playful. So I'll, like, a lot of times at events just go and sit at the kids table, and I have a grand old time because they're not bringing their bullshit. They're not getting drunk. None of that shit. So I mean, like, and these things go with being in a relationship, right? If it is just nails down a chalkboard to spend one afternoon at a wedding for someone you don't know, which I totally get that. Yeah, like, relationships aren't for you, and that's, again, price of admission. Okay. Or you could just find someone who kind of sees relationships in the way you do. There are people like that. One of my good friends is date someone who's like that. And I'm always like, oh man, this is like the ideal relationship for me, because they spend a lot of time apart. They do a lot of things separately. They have different friend groups. Like, it's my ideal relationship structure, but they've been together for a really long time, and they really do love each other, you know? So I think there's a variety of reasons this doesn't work out. I don't think this person is the right fit for you based on your personality. But I also think you have to, like, have a serious conversation with yourself. Like, do you really want to be in a relationship, or were you just a little lonely and you met someone who you wanted to, like, fucking, like, who pay attention for you for a little while? Yeah. Like, which one was it?
No one hates that.
Yeah. And that's fine.
Yeah. But, like, your first time, like, going back out into the dating scene, you just are in a relationship. Like, that's also, you didn't really date yet.
Yeah.
So try dating.
Yeah. Try dating.
And try group therapy on my patreon.com/Christina Hutchinson. And I have a solo podcast called The Voices in Our Heads, where each week I talk about stuff that's happening and revelations in my life and the trauma stuff and all kinds of stuff. And then I read a book that has changed the way I think. And this month I'm getting into The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest. That fucking book about self-sabotage. It is... Oh, God. I had somebody DM me, like, I just listened to your first episode on it, and, like, every sentence punched me in the stomach. I'm like, that's what she do. That's what Brianna Wiest does.
We love Brianna.
It's crazy. Like, she gets to the point, like, words are so powerful. And when you witness somebody who writes them in such a good way, you're like, fuck, I forgot that words can be so poignant and really potent and really kind of seep into your psyche in a way that I've been trying to conquer this self-sabotaging shit for a long time. And then when you realize, like, it's just a response to something, and it's actually totally normal, you're like, oh, okay, I don't gotta do a pile-on? Hell yeah. So Voices in Our Heads comes out every Monday, wherever you get your podcast, and then patreon.com/Christina Hutchinson if you want to chat once a week on Zoom as a group therapy, and I also do the bonus readings from the book on that as well.
And if you want to hear more of me, you can check out my podcast, Without a Country. It's available everywhere you listen to podcasts, including Luminary. And then, of course, full video on YouTube comes out on Wednesdays. We've been talking a lot about college campus protesting that's been going on all over the United States. Pro-Palestine and then counter-protests as well. And kind of, we've been looking into the origin of college campus protesting and also the change that college campus protests have actually invoked over the years. It's actually a really powerful form of protest. We're talking about that a lot. And we also usually have a segment called Cutie's Corner, which is about animal welfare or abuse or something going extinct. Sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative. A lot of times it's negative because it's funny to call it Cutie's Corner. And then, of course, my favorite part of the show, which is Corinne Fisher's party topic of the week, where I tell you something just terrible that you can share at a party to ruin it. because that is my energy. This week we talked about how a judge ruled that in India, marital rape is still legal.
Cute.
So, you know what? Could be worse, everybody.
Cute.
Yeah, and that is that. Of course, see me on the Eye of the Tiger tour, as I said, upcoming Portland, San Francisco, Sacramento, Seattle, Austin, Houston, and Salt Lake City. And the tickets are at corinfisher.com.
Hell yeah.
My family's MO, they love to send just the most lighthearted things to the group chat. This was actually on a group email, which is why I just had trouble finding it. But my mom emailed to me and my brother this opinion guest essay from the New York Times that I wanted to share with you guys called The Troubling Trend in Teenage Sex. So Debbie Herbenik is one of the foremost researchers on American sexual behavior, the director of the Center for Sexual Health Promotion at Indiana University, and the author of the pointedly titled book, Yes, Your Kid. She usually shares her data no matter how explicit without judgment, so I was surprised by how concerned she seemed when we checked in on Zoom recently. I haven't often felt so strongly about getting research out there, she told me, but this is life-saving. For the past 4 years, Dr. Herbenik has been tracking the rapid rise of rough sex among college students, particularly sexual strangulation, or what is colloquially referred to as choking. Nearly 2/3 of women in her most recent campus representative survey of 5,000 students at an anonymized major Midwestern university said a partner had choked them during sex, 1/3 in their most recent encounter. The rate of those women who said they were between the ages of 12 and 17 the first time that happened had shot up to 40% from 1 in 4. As someone who's been writing for well over a decade about young people's attitudes and early experience with sex in all its forms, I'd also begun clocking this phenomenon. I was initially startled in early 2020 when, during a post-talk Q&A at an independent high school, a 16-year-old girl asked, "How come boys all want to choke you?" In a different class, a 15-year-old boy wanted to know, why do girls all want to be choked? They do? Not long after, a college sophomore and longtime interview subject contacted me after her roommate came home in tears because a hookup partner, without warning, had put both hands on her throat and squeezed. I started to ask more, and the stories piled up. Another sophomore confided that she enjoyed being choked by her boyfriend, though it was important for a partner to be properly educated, pressing on the sides of the neck, for example, rather than the trachea. Note, there is no safe way to strangle someone. A male freshman, New York Times, you've done it again. A male freshman said, quote, girls expected to be choked, and even though he didn't want to do it, refusing would make him seem like a, quote, simp. Someone listens to Legion of Skanks. And a senior in high school was angry that her friends called her vanilla when she complained that her boyfriend had choked her.
Jesus!
Sexual strangulation, nearly always of women in heterosexual pornography, has long been a staple on free sites, those default sources of sex ed for teens. As with anything else, repeat exposure can render the once appalling appealing. It's not uncommon for behaviors to be normalized in porn, move within a few years to mainstream media, then in what may become a feedback loop, be adopted in the bedroom or the dorm room. Choking, Dr. Herbenik said, seems to have made that first leap in a 2008 episode of Showtime's Californication. God, I love that show.
Love that show.
Where it was still depicted as outre, I forget this word, then accelerated after the success of 50 Shades of Grey. By 2019, when a high school girl was choked in the pilot of HBO's Euphoria, it was standard fare. A young woman was choked in the opener of The Idol, again on HBO, and also, like Euphoria, created by Sam Levinson. What's with him? I have some theories. Ali Wong plays the proclivity for laughs in a Netflix special, and it's a punchline in Tina Fey's new Mean Girls. The chorus of Jack Harlow's Lovin' On Me, which topped Billboard's Hot 100 chart for 6 non-consecutive weeks this winter and has been viewed over 99 million times on YouTube, starts with, I'm vanilla, baby, I'll choke you, but I ain't no killer, baby. How to... I actually have heard that song so many times, and I never knew that was the lyric. I knew the vanilla baby lyric, and I knew the ain't no killer, but I guess I didn't hear the choking part. And now all piecing it together. Wow, I was just bopping. How-to articles abound on the internet, and social media algorithms feed young people, but typically not their unsuspecting parents, hundreds of hashtag choke me daddy memes, along with memes that mock, even celebrate the potential for hurting or killing female partners. I mean, no surprise there. Don't you love being a woman on the internet? I'm not here to kink shame or anything shame. And anyway, many experienced BDSM practitioners discourage choking, believing it to be too dangerous.
Yeah.
There are still relatively few studies on the subject, and most have been done by Dr. Herbenik and her colleagues. Reports among adolescents are now trickling out from the United Kingdom, Australia, Iceland, New Zealand, and Italy. 20 years ago, sexual asphyxiation appears to have been unusual among any demographic, let alone young people who were new to sex and iffy at communication. That's changed radically in a short time, with health consequences that parents, educators, medical professionals, sexual consent advocates, and teens themselves urgently need to understand. Sexual trends can spread quickly on campus and to an extent in every direction, but at least among straight kids, I've sometimes noticed a pattern. Those that involve basic physical gratification, like receiving oral sex and hookups, tend to favor men. Those that might entail pain or submission, like choking, are generally more for women. It's a girl's thing. So,
Girls love getting hurt.
We love
Emotionally
getting hurt.
and physically.
Yes.
Break my heart, daddy.
So, while undergrads of all genders and sexualities in Dr. Herbenik's surveys report both choking and being choked, straight and bisexual young women are far more likely to have been the subjects of the behavior. The gap widens with greater occurrences. In a separate study, Dr. Herbenik and her colleagues found the behavior repeated across the United States, particularly for adults under 40 and not just among college students. Alcohol may well be involved, and while the act is often engaged in with a steady partner, a quarter of young women said partners they'd had sex with on the day they'd met also choked them. Either way, most say that their partners never or only sometimes asked before grabbing their necks. For many, there had been moments when they couldn't breathe or speak, compromising the ability to withdraw consent if they'd given it.
That's assault, baby.
No wonder that in a separate study by Dr. Herbenik, choking was among the most frequently listed sex acts young women said had scared them. And I gotta say, when I think about like my friends and like the one thing on their no list, I have some women who, when you bring up choking, like you see fear in their eyes. I actually really like choking, and I don't like when someone asks, "Can they choke me?" But these are people who I have like an understanding with. This
trust.
is not, you know,
Choking is not for the I just met you. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. This is, and like yes, please start out like not with all your might. You basically you feel it out like going near the neck area. If you're not doing a verbal consent, you're lightly starting to apply pressure to the sides of the neck, and certainly not on the fucking front. When people lean on the front, oh my god, because then you don't die, and you know they don't know what you're doing. I think men a lot of times when you're having heterosexual sex don't realize how heavy the weight of them on your chest is.
Yeah.
Like that's like the most weight I've ever had on top of me as a man. All right, reporting that it sometimes made them worry whether they'd survive. Among girls and women I've spoken with, many did not want or like to be sexually strangled, though in an otherwise desired encounter they didn't name it as assault. Still, a sizable number were enthusiastic, they requested it. It is exciting to feel so vulnerable, a college junior explained. I also don't remember choking in college. I mean, I had the same boyfriend for like all of college and a little after. We did a lot of things. I can't remember if we did choking. Also, it doesn't really seem like just knowing him, it's not really his energy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't remember. Let's see. The power dynamic turns her on. Oxygen deprivation to the brain can trigger your euphoria. That same young woman, incidentally, had never climaxed with a partner. While the prevalence of choking has skyrocketed, rates of orgasm among young women have not increased, nor has the orgasm gap disappeared among heterosexual couples.
They haven't met our guest yet.
It indicates they're not doing other things to enhance female arousal or pleasure, Dr. Herbenik said. When, for instance, she asked one male student who said he choked his partner whether he'd ever tried using a vibrator. Instead, he recoiled. "Why would I do that?" he asked. Perhaps she responded because it would be more likely to produce orgasm without risking, death. And when I think about choking, I mean, there is a little bit of like, I certainly sometimes when I masturbate alone hold my breath, which we've talked about, breathing through the orgasm.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, I'm not gonna like, I guess there is like a correlation a little bit, but like, yeah, rubbing my clit is certainly a much easier way to make me orgasm than choking me. The choking is just like a little add-on,
And it can only be done, like people who like choking, it can only be done with a certain person, with a certain skill level, you have a certain level of trust with, man.
If the girl looks scared, you have to stop, and if the girl looking scared makes you like it more, go to therapy.
You're a sociopath that needs help.
In my interviews, college students have seen male orgasm as a given. Women's is nice if it happens, but certainly not expected or necessarily prioritized by either partner. Oh, they haven't met Corinne Fisher yet. It's prioritized. So it makes sense then that fulfillment would be. I've told people they're not leaving the room, which I guess is a different form of harassment. It makes sense then that fulfillment would be less the motivator for choking than appearing adventurous or kinky. Such performances don't always feel good. Personally, my hypothesis is that this is one of the reasons young people are delaying or having less sex, Dr. Herbernick said, because it's uncomfortable and weird and scary. At times, some of them literally think someone is assaulting them, but they don't know. Those are the only sexual experiences for some people, and it's not just once they've gotten naked. They'll say things like, I've only tried to make out with someone once because he started choking and hitting me. Kisuka Kawata, a neuroscientist at Indiana University School of Public Health, was one of the first researchers to sound the alarm on how the cumulative, seemingly inconsequential, subconcussive hits football players sustain, as opposed to the occasional hard blow, were key to triggering CTE, the degenerative brain disease. He's a good judge of serious threats to the brain. In response to Dr. Herbernick's work, he's turning his attention to sexual strangulation.
Ooh.
I see a similarity to CTE, he told me.
Shut the fuck up.
Though the mechanism of injury is very different, in this case it is oxygen blocking pressure to the throat, frequently in light repeated bursts of a few seconds each. And listen, if you want to talk about what happens when the oxygen starts hitting your brain, you can talk to me about my dad in hospice all day long, because he didn't get that from sexual strangulation. Although,
He didn't?
wish that on you, Dad.
Yeah.
Strangulation, sexual or otherwise, often leaves few visible marks and can be easily overlooked as a cause of death. Those whose experiences are non-lethal rarely seek medical attention because any injuries seem minor. Young women, Dr. Herbernick studied, mostly reported lightheadedness, headaches, neck pain, temporary loss of coordination, and ear ringing. I've certainly had lightheadedness from choking. The symptoms resolve and all seems well, but as with those NFL players, the true effects are silent, potentially not showing up for days, weeks, even years. According to the American Academy of Neurology, restricting blood flow to the brain, even briefly, can cause permanent injury, including stroke and cognitive impairment. In MRIs conducted by Dr. Kawata and his colleagues, including Dr. Herbernick, who is a co-author of his papers on strangulation, undergraduate women who have been repeatedly choked show a reduction in cortical folding in the brain compared with a never-choked control group.
Oh my God.
That's just so funny. I'm in a never-choked control group. They also showed widespread cortical thickening and inflammation response that is associated with elevated risk of later onset mental illness. In completing simple memory tasks, their brains had to work far harder than the control group, recruiting from more regions to achieve the same level of accuracy.
It was just for a couple seconds of not oxygen?
Yeah, this is so bad.
But wait, what? I do breath work where you have to hold your breath for a certain amount of time. Like, does that fuck you up? That's crazy.
I don't know what.
That's such a thing that no one would.
We're gonna have to ask Dr. Herbernick, I guess.
Fuck. That's exactly it. You have to hold your breath for 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. But you're not being. There's no pressure on your trachea. But I'm like, is holding your breath bad?
I don't know.
Fuck.
The hemisphere.
Stop doing that.
The hemispheres in the choked group's brains too were badly skewed, with the right side hyperactive and the left underperforming. A similar imbalance is associated with mood disorders, and indeed, in Dr. Herbernick's survey, girls and women who had been choked were more likely than others, or choked men, to have experienced overwhelming anxiety, as well as sadness and loneliness, with the effect more pronounced as the incident rose. Women who had experienced more than 5 instances of choking were 2.5 times as likely, I'm so fucked, as those who had never been been choked to say that they had been so depressed within the previous 30 days they couldn't function. Whether girls and women with mental health challenges are more likely to seek out or be subjected to choking. Sad girls, choking causes mood disorders or some combination of the two is still unclear.
Okay.
But hypoxia or oxygen deprivation, judging by what research has shown about other types of traumatic brain injury, could be a contributing factor. Giving the...
Dude, that makes the Wim Hof technique so lethal then. That's crazy. You literally hold your breath for at 1.3 minutes.
Maybe that's why he made... I don't know.
He's so, but I do it for cognitive function.
Right, no, I know.
And to like, Jesus, this is interesting.
Given the soaring rates of depression and anxiety, and also, I mean, a little insight to why I am the way I am. This is the group chat for the Fisher family. Jesus fuck.
I forget that is not
choking.
normal. Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
What is going? No wonder I'm not lighthearted.
Randy, you're gonna want to talk about this.
No wonder. She's not the Jewish one, but yeah, no wonder.
Right. I know that's not what she sounds like.
She's from Jersey City, though. Given the soaring rates of depression and anxiety among young women, that warrants concern. Now, consider that every year Dr. Herbernick has done her survey. The number of females reporting extreme effects from strangulation, neck swelling, loss of consciousness, losing control of urinary function has crept up. Among those who have been choked, the rate of becoming what students call cloudy, close to passing out but not crossing the line, is now 1 in 5, a huge proportion. Yeah, for sure. I've been cloudy.
Jesus, really?
Yeah. All of this indicates partners are pressing on necks longer and harder. The physical, cognitive, and psychological impacts of sexual choking are disturbing. So is the idea that at a time when women's social, economic, educational, and political power are in ascent.
It's getting choked out of us.
I know. I was like, just let me get choked in peace. Let me get choked in peace.
Can't have your paycheck
You know
and get
what?
choked too, baby.
Sometimes you need to get choked out to not think about all the things on your goddamn to-do list.
Yeah.
Even if some of those rights may be in jeopardy. When #MeToo has made progress against harassment and assault, there has been the popularization of a sex act that can damage our brains. I like that her point at the end of it is like, it's all part of the patriarchal scheme. And I was like, I don't know that I agree with this part of
I think
it.
that young men are watching porn every day,
Yeah.
and they're just
I also think I think maybe more so than there's a lot of irony in this. I think is what we're saying. There has been a
worked so hard to get the
right, exactly. It's been literally fucking choked out of us.
We're drooling and pissing ourselves.
We can't remember we got a raise because we got choked the night before. There has been the popularization of a sex act that can damage our brains, impair intellectual functioning, undermine mental health, even kill us. Non-fatal strangulation, one of the most significant indicators that a man will murder his female partner.
Ooh.
Strangulation is also one of the most common methods used for doing so, has somehow been eroticized and made consensual, at least consensual enough. Yet the outcomes are largely the same. Women's brains and bodies don't distinguish whether they are being harmed out of hate or out of love. Single tear. Damn.
Aww.
By now I'm guessing that parents are curled under their chairs in a fetal position, or perhaps thinking, no, not my kid. See? Title of Dr. Herbernick's book above, which, by the way, contains an entire chapter on how to talk to your teen about rough sex. And I gotta be honest, nothing would make me want to have rough sex less than if my mom sat me down and talked to me about it. So it is working already.
Yeah, so let's talk to those kids.
I get it. It's scary stuff. Dr. Herbernick is worried. I am too. And we are hardly some anti-sex wait till marriage crusaders. But I don't think our only option is to wring our hands over what young people are doing. Parents should take a beat and consider how they might give their children relevant information in a way that they can hear it. Maybe reiterate that they want them to have a pleasurable sex life. You have already said that, right? And also want them to be safe. Tell them that misinformation about certain practices, including choking, is rampant, that in reality it has grave health consequences. Plus, whether or not a partner initially requested it, if things go wrong, you're generally criminally on the hook. Dr. Herbernick suggests reminding them that there are other lower risk ways to be exploratory or adventurous if that is what they are after, but it would be wisest to delay any rough sex until they are older and more skilled at communicating. She offers language when negotiating with a new partner, such as, by the way, I'm not comfortable with choking or other escalating behaviors such as name-calling, spitting, and genital slapping. So please, don't do it / don't ask me to do it to you. They could also add what they are into and want to do together. I'd like to point high school health teachers to evidence-based porn literacy curricula, but I realize classrooms could cost them their jobs. Shafia Zaloom, a lecturer at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, recommends, if that's the case, grounding discussions in mainstream and social media. There are plenty of opportunities. You can use it to deconstruct gender norms, power dynamics in relationships, performative trends that don't represent most people's healthy behaviors, she said, especially depictions of people putting pressure on someone's neck or chest. I also know that pediatricians, like other adults, struggle when talking to adolescents about sex. The typical conversation, if it happens, lasts 40 seconds. Then again, they already caution younger children to use a helmet when they ride a bike because heads and necks are delicate. They can mention that teens might hear about things people do in sexual situations, including choking, then explain the impact on brain health and why such behavior is best avoided. They should emphasize that if for any reason, a fall, a sports mishap, or anything else, wink wink, a young person develops symptoms of head trauma, they should come in immediately, no judgment, for help in healing. The role and responsibility of the entertainment industry is a tangled knot. Media reflects behavior, but also drives it. One of my favorite topics. Either expanding possibilities or increasing risks. There is precedent for accountability. The European Union now requires age verification on the world's largest porn sites in ways that preserves user privacy.
You just gotta go, yes, I'm over 18, though.
I know.
I mean, that's not doing shit.
No, it's not.
It's not doing absolute jack shit, but okay.
In ways that preserve user privacy, whatever that means on the internet. That discussion, unsurprisingly, has been politicized here. Social media platforms have already been pushed to ban content promoting eating disorders, self-harm, and suicide. They should likewise be pressured to ban content promoting choking. Traditional formats can stop glamorizing strangulation, making light of it, spreading false information, using it to signal female characters' complexity or sexual awakening. Young people's sexual scripts are shaped by what they watch, scroll by, and listen to, unprecedentedly so. They deserve and desperately need models of interactions that are respectful, communicative, mutual, and at the very least safe. So, Peggy Orenstein is the author of Boys and Sex, Young Men on Hookups, Love, Porn, Consent, and Navigating the New Masculinity, and Girls and Sex, Navigating the Complicated New Landscape. So, yes, greetings from the Fisher family group chat, everyone. That's what we were talking about this week. It was also funny because my mom was like, my word, I don't even know about strangling and sex. And then me and my brother, I don't know a lot. I don't know what my brother's doing. I try not to talk about him a lot on this podcast because I know he likes to remain a pretty private person. But your girl loves choking. She loves choking. I love choking. I love being choked. But yeah, I mean, it's really, there's so little in this life to look forward to. And now,
You can look forward to forgetting you got a raise and pissing yourself in the car.
yeah, this seems extreme though.
Yeah.
It's not fun it's not fun.
Also, like, if you're doing it right, you're not actually getting choked. Like, you're not.
It just seems though, like, I guess, so I mean, the time, if we're talking about like choking, the times I've actually gotten cloudy, that's like once or twice.
Yeah.
So we're still in that under 5, I guess, for the cloudiness.
Yay.
Uh-oh. Anyway.
Fascinating. I'd be curious if there's any listeners, younger listeners here who, like, if there's any male teenage listeners that do this, that listen. I'm very curious. I assume you're getting this from porn, but are you? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Where are you getting it from?
Just so you know, like, not finding the clit is annoying. Choking someone the wrong way can kill them.
Much more annoying.
So just go ahead on not finding the clit. Maybe concentrate on that until you're, in your mid-20s.
Yeah. This person found the clit way early.
Yeah, he did.
He's never not found the clit.
Yeah, he did.
There's no way he's
the
never
clit
not.
is him, and he is the clit.
Yeah, honestly, he's a hip-hop artist, star, legend. He's a rapper from the Bronx. You've seen him on VH1's Love and Hip Hop. And from the rap duo Lord Tariq and Peter Guns, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome legend Peter Guns.
Don't look at me. It's them hack Hollywood writers.
Honestly, it seems
Men are petty. Men like to say, "I fuck Peter Gunn's baby mother."
Right. There's also like a
That
level
happens
of
to me all the time.
Really?
And I'm like, which
That's
one? I
fucked.
got 6 of them.
Yeah.
right.
And I'm not with none of them. Which one did you have, my friend? So I could tell you how she likes it.
What year was this?
Oh man, this had to be the 90s.
90s?
90.
That's kind of romantic.
Damn, I didn't get here till 2003.
See?
Past the kicking the lights off.
I know, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to do that. Open the windows, people smoke weed. I don't smoke weed, but play the music.
Wow. It's a party
It
train.
was a party train, but it took a. Most people wouldn't get on the train. Could be completely packed. Most people didn't want to get on. That was-
Really?
Because they knew there was a party
thugs
going
and
on.
the radios and the weed.
Oh, okay.
And that's where I used to battle from the Bronx to Brooklyn on the back of the 2 train,
That's cool.
and all the way back. Brooklyn across the battle rappers, and I think that's where my skills got better than that kind of stuff. But sometimes going to the movies 42nd Street, coming back with your girlfriend, let's try something.
Yeah, that's fun.
Elevators, all type of shit. I did it all.
Orgies?
I wasn't really big on orgies because I didn't want to see. I want to be the only man. Sorry.
And I love that for
I
you,
don't see
Peter.
nobody else.
No, it's
Yeah.
what you want. It's what you want. Have you been the only man in a room full of women? Like, sexually?
Like, have you had like some kind of a harem?
What's a harem again?
Just
You
a
know
group
what?
of a group of ladies.
Oh, okay.
I've had that before, but I was only with 2 of them.
Yeah.
The rest of them watched.
They were like, "Yay, Peter! You can do it." It's nice to get cheered on.
Yeah, I would wave them in. Like, come on, tap it. Get out of here.
Oh, wow.
That's
But
great.
These 2 didn't want to stop. Nah, we gonna keep it like this.
That's
But it
fun.
was a funny thing. I'm not gonna say the name. I'm not gonna say the name, but one of these women turned out to be a famous singer's girlfriend.
Oh,
Okay.
The mother of his kid.
Okay.
I didn't know him at the time. At this particular time, I never knew him.
Yeah.
I was a fan, but never knew him. And her and the girl I was dealing with at the same time had a fight. And she told him.
Wait, she had a fight with the other girl?
Yeah, they had they were
Mid-sex
best
fight?
friends. No, they were best friends. They fell out. And I guess she went back and told her baby father, by the way, she fucked Peter Guns. We both fucked him. And it was a big deal.
What
Me and
happened?
him got into it at Madison Square Garden. I went up on some fan shit, not knowing he knew. After a while, I knew.
You went up for a little photo, and then you got into some trouble.
Well, I found out that I eventually found out that was his kid's mother, but they weren't together.
Oh, okay.
I took that shit personally.
Really? That's just all ego because you can't. What? That makes no sense. You didn't even know the guy.
We all have it. I have it. Listen, I won't lie. I just don't know you. You shouldn't be mad at me. You
Right.
should say, yo, you're dealing with dudes in the industry. I'm in the industry. That's fucked up. Or whatever you might feel.
Right.
You don't let the man know it. I'm never going to approach any man that sleeps. Again, we'll go back to men. Men are petty. Men like to say, I fuck Peter Gunn's baby mother.
Right. There's also like a
That
level
happens to
of.
me all the time.
Really?
And I'm like, which one? I got 6 of them.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm not with none of them. Which one did you have, my friend? So I can tell you how she likes it.
That's the spirit. That's the spirit, Peter. Well, I mean, also with that there's like a possessiveness or an objectification of women that goes along with that. When someone gets mad, like you fucked this person, like she belongs to me. When we're all really like free sexual beings as long as we're not married.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that more than anyone.
Yeah, but again,
There is something different about, well, maybe I always classified it as respect, but when it's when a woman is the mother of a child of yours, that's a totally different level of connection and how you look at her, usually. That seems like there's, you move up in respect levels in your partner's life.
in some cases, some dudes don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Listen, I admire my friend Rich Dollars, right? He don't give a shit. He'll break up, you'll never know. You'll never see no hurt, no pain. He don't care. If you was with somebody he was with already, his kid, mother, whatever. I admire guys that can just move on from it and not sweat anything. All right, it's over, it's over. Whatever she did. That's her life. She's best. I have a friend named Jeremy like that. Jeremy Meeks, he was the prison bae. The guy that did the prison shot to all the girls.
Oh, the hot guy? The hot?
Very good friend of mine.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's my guy.
I'll never forget when that mugshot came out.
Like Green Eyed Angel.
Very good friend of mine.
He's the hottest person
Yeah,
I've ever seen.
very hot.
And let me tell you, the coolest.
That's
Cool is
amazing.
the other side of the pillow. If you think I don't sweat nothing, there's nothing like it.
Wow.
And as far as being open and free and people,
He's polyamorous in a way, almost like.
1000%.
Yeah,
We
cool.
did a dating show together.
Oh, nice.
After Happily Ever After. It's on HBO. No, it's on BET Max. After Happily Ever After, we did that show together. He straight up told me, "Are you cool with polyamorous relationships?" And this is what it is. I can't, spirits are free. But I was like,
Wow, shit.
and that was one of the conversations we had in the show. I was like, why can't you just peep? Just peep. Nah, I don't want nobody. I don't want nobody that's my ball. You can't play with my ball. That's that.
It literally comes down to a child going, mine.
Yeah, I can't deal with another man with my lady, man. I know y'all say, but you can do it. I know it's wrong.
Yeah, well, I
know
mean,
it's wrong.
At least you've acknowledged that part of it. That's
Yeah.
one step
I know.
closer.
Because that
Peter.
the thing that I can't stand is when a man acts like that and won't acknowledge it.
Right.
Just
Oh, it's dead
fucking
wrong.
own it. What is your problem?
It's dead wrong.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you it's dead wrong. It's the same. I argue with my friends. It's the same hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My only argument with women is that it's a difference in terms of men really don't give a fuck. I'm not saying that you can't fuck somebody. I'm not saying you can't.
But I will say, when a woman fucks a man, a lot of times the woman is invested in this man's essence, and it's not just a penis. It's not just like a woman can maybe be like a hole to it, like it doesn't matter, I don't know her name, whatever. But a woman will like kind of pick you out from a
Right.
crowd and go, you. Like women
Exactly.
treat men like they're special.
Meanwhile, I got a whole portfolio I hope nobody ever finds out about.
Yeah.
Those type of situations.
Well, now everyone's interested.
Keeping it
Wait, which ones you don't want people to find out?
Oh
Like,
my
what reason?
God. Because it was snowing in Denver that weekend, and it was snowed in. It was nothing else. Okay, you come here.
Regret
like,
sex?
like
Yeah.
the level of people
Like
that
you fucked
were.
a two? That's a yes.
Oh,
I'm trying
Peter.
to think, was she even a two? Is
Eh,
the-
1.5.
You giving her extra credit.
Uh-oh.
I've took a deep dive in this fucking.
This is beautiful. We all, it's very inclusive. We all have a chance.
We can all get on that D.
Well, that's the old me. That was a long time
Right,
ago.
right.
Now
That was
I'm
5 to 7 years ago.
Listen, I am in a
new
way
man.
different space now.
Yeah.
I'm in a different space. I guess it comes with age.
Of course, yeah. How has sex shifted in your eyes? Like from this decade that you're in to the last decade? Like what is a marked difference of like how you approach sex or view sex?
It's meaningful to me now more than before. It's more. It has to be. It used to be a time I was like, I'm not saying that that's still can happen, but for the most part, every time is meaningful, means something to me.
Have you ever
That's
cried?
what it is.
Have you ever cried after sex?
No.
Really?
Hell
Like but meaningful sex is like, first of all, it's physically the closest you're ever gonna be to another person.
Right.
And it's so vulnerable. And it's a dance. Like like you were saying earlier, like you like reading the cue. You don't want a verbal cue of what to do, but you like to figure it out. But like you go off of energy and body language, all this stuff. Like it is like a really connected. It can
100%.
be like intense.
I am a person that likes to, I really like music, no matter what it is, lo-fi music, reggae, whatever it is, whatever the music is. I do like to chill and talk and chill afterwards, like cuddle and just talk and chill.
Yeah.
I'm not a guy like, done here.
Yeah.
Holla.
Yeah.
Not that.
Where am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm not that dude. I think that's surprising. Very. Yeah. And once I'm locked in, that's it.
What do you mean by that? Like once you connect to the person, you're like connected to them
if
for.
we there, we there.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
no
yeah.
rush to go. There's no rush to it's not like.
Yeah. Well, you have a very tender heart. You do. Like you're vulnerable.
People don't believe that. They think it's this dog animal.
No, that's why I liked about you so much. Like you had this like love for women, but you also are very vulnerable. And like, it's a great combination. I feel like some people like you don't see enough examples of men who are both. And that's why I was like, I really want to have you on because that's the type of masculinity that I think like leading by example, the way that you evolved and stuff too. It's like it's very valuable. For
Yeah, thank you for having me here. First off, I love the show. I was binge watching yesterday. Yeah, Bill.
Oh.
I love Bill. Is he nice in person?
He was interesting.
Okay, that's a no. Well, the thing
It wasn't that he wasn't nice. That wasn't the issue. It wasn't that he wasn't nice. It was that maybe like
He's very stoned, and so it was a little hard to like.
and also like trying a little like too hard to like be like young and sexy.
Yeah, I think Bill Maher has.
And there's no need.
There's
You're
a
Bill Maher.
sexiness to Bill Maher. Yeah.
Just be yourself.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
He's a guy that I like to listen to and watch because he's mostly independent, even though he's a different way. But I used to, you got certain people you listen like Bill Burr, certain people I listen to, Joe Rogan, that I like feel like these are friends that I never met.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
and I don't want to meet them for the same things that you just said.
Yeah.
Like,
Totally.
I don't want to be disappointed. That's why
like
I never
the-
really wanted to meet Prince like that because I didn't want to be disappointed.
Did you ever meet Prince?
That's my life and buying all this music. Yeah, I did. Ended up meeting him downtown in the village anyway.
Oh, the underground.
Shelby J was his background singer. She's
Right.
very good friend.
He got a lot of these musicians in the village. That's cool. Were you disappointed, or were you like, oh, this is great?
Well, it was so quick that I didn't
Okay.
have to. It wasn't like this was my time. They did shake my hand. You said they shake my hand. I didn't sit down and talk to him.
Okay.
And by the time he was Jehovah's Witness, and I'm an atheist, that wouldn't work out too well.
Yeah. What do you want to accomplish in your life, romantically, sexually, family-wise? That like, what's next for you in those areas of your life, given your ambition?
I was gonna say, have you ever been married?
Yeah, but not.
But you didn't mean it that time.
It was real quick. That was a JK. Peter goes
No,
out.
she's a sweetheart. I love her to death. Shout out to Amina, butterfly. I love you.
Every ex-wife loves a shout out.
Married, sometimes, I can't say publicly, I'm not saying that I didn't love her, but, sometimes, yeah.
What do you mean?
Sometimes you have to be married.
That's a.
Okay.
Oh, meaning like she wouldn't continue the relationship unless you were agreed to the marriage.
I'll tell you off.
Oh, okay, got it.
But
Yeah.
I'll say this.
Or sometimes someone lives in a different country.
And you need your papers.
I didn't say that. But what I'm saying is, I don't want to belittle the fact that I don't love her.
Of course, yeah.
What I mean is, I want a big wedding.
Oh yeah. And with big weddings, like that does seem like one of the big perks of a marriage is like having a wedding, of celebrating how much you love somebody with all the people you love. I mean, that's like that's
I think it's the only way for me moving forward for someone to take me really serious.
to have a big wedding.
Is to be married, and at this point in time, I've done so much cheating and fuckery.
Right.
I can't be like, yo, you're the one, and that's it. No
Right.
one's gonna take that shit serious. So to prove it, I gotta put a ring on your finger and we're like a wedding.
Yeah.
Your family, my family. Let them know that those days are far behind. If
Yeah. Would you enter a monogamous like agreement
I'm
with
ready
somebody?
now. I don't think I could have ever done that.
Oh, okay.
Even 5 years ago.
What
Wow.
got you? What got you to that place?
Women getting pissed at you.
Kids.
Do you want to fuck less?
Yeah, because I was gonna say real talk does like you
Testosterone goes
you
down
look great.
as
You don't
you
look like I feel there is something, and this is not against you, but just like I feel like everyone gets so on top of women aging and society. We're so shitty about women aging. When in reality, as I have been aging, I feel great and I feel young. And my peers of the same age who are male, they're getting crusty, and like their attitude towards life is crusty in a way that women's isn't. And so to me, that's so ironic that we're constantly held under this microscope aesthetically that we have to, get Botox and keep it tight and keep it thin and all this stuff.
Let those titties sag.
Listen, men are doing that too. I have not any experience in getting my hair, Botox or anything done. I will get my teeth done. That's for sure. I'm gonna experience. So white though. Nah, I'm just saying. But I think men my age are holding women to such a high, and it bothers me because they upkeep. A lot of my friends are not in shape.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And they
Dude, a
judge
guy that's
Mom,
flappy, commenting on a woman whose body's not tight, I will.
Listen to me.
It's Homer Simpson with the no fat chick shirt on.
That's
Yes.
80% of the men around me.
Yeah.
I gotta be my man. Have you looked in the mirror? So listen.
You should just
Here's
carry a
the
mirror with you.
story.
Yeah, thank you for standing up for us. Because you're right.
mean, I don't.
35, 36,
40.
Older than that.
Hell yeah.
Again, I don't have a problem with that. I think, and I don't. Women doesn't have to be in the best shape to me either.
Right.
But I just think the nerve of it. And I tell my friends,
Right.
oh, that's because you like to work out. I don't like to work out.
Yeah.
I ride my bike through Central Park. I like the scenery. I like to walk. I do it so that my lady can look at me and say, oh, look at me.
Thank you. Good.
I hate working out. I'm not a gym rat. I don't lift weights. I do all calisthenics.
Oh, wow.
I ride my bike. That's it.
Yeah.
I work out on my time. I don't work out with nobody because I don't want to say, hey, I just did 15 your time. No. I'm on the phone.
Yeah.
I'm that dude. I hate working out. But I tell people mentally, if you keep yourself in shape, you're sure, then you don't have to worry about your girl watching Netflix with you lusting over fucking Chris Brown or somebody.
And then it all goes back to cheating. It all goes back.
But whatever, like.
But yeah, but most men, I bring
I
the
like-
money in. I'll take care of this. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter, bro. Keep
If you're floppy, flabby, and that like that, I cannot. That type of guy drives me insane. And the only cure for that behavior to stop is for other men to go, look at yourself.
I do.
Dude,
Yeah.
like I'm so glad you
I
do that.
do.
You're
Yeah.
providing a service to men. You're providing service to women,
I
especially.
tell my friends that, man, you
Yeah.
don't think she look at you like that?
And what do they
That's the
say? Like they're like, that's a good point.
A lot. Listen, oh man, these guys. Not all. Some of my friends.
Yeah.
Some of my friends don't even like being with their ladies.
That sucks.
Almost
I
like
can
what I've
get
been
hard-
telling
they
everyone
can
the
get
whole
hard
time.
for
Yeah.
some of my friends are like, I can get hard for, my side chick or do whatever they do.
Yeah.
Performance. I can't.
Is it a Madonna
Don't
horse thing?
cooperate.
Oh.
I just think at some point in time, relationship, look up and down that road, man. Shit gets
Fizzles.
older, you want something new, you know what I mean? But I talked to an older guy one day, older man passed away. He told me, just gotta do different things. Like,
Put a
bowling
mask
night,
on.
movie night, this,
Give her a
that.
wig.
Just in
Happy
terms of
birthday, honey.
Activities.
So
Like,
no, if your man
do a
starts
lot of
planning
things.
things, he is sick of you.
Bored. Bored it up, pussy. But
Yeah, no,
there is something
but
unique.
back to me, nah, I can't, I don't know nobody that can keep up. My tribe is still extremely
Yeah.
high.
Right, because I was gonna ask you if your if your libido has changed or if your sex drive has dropped, past 50. Yeah.
It's crazy. It's getting worse. But I will say this, my
getting worse.
dad told me, yo, if you keep going at your rate, it's not gonna work. And my father died in 06, and he thought I was doing too much then. And I'm like, well, so far, so good.
Well, what does he think is gonna happen? Like your dick is gonna fall off? Like what's going on here? What's the fear? Is it physical or mental?
Well, he was like, physically, you're not gonna be able to perform if you just keep, because he used to see me just different women all the time.
Oh, and you said
And
that
then,
sounds like a challenge.
But he always worried about, hey, he said, I feel like the death of you is somebody's girl, somebody's wife.
Oh, like you're gonna get murdered
Catch
by the
something.
husband or
He
boyfriend
just-
of the
I
girl
feel-
you fucked?
For some reason, my fear for you is gonna be a woman. All women's gonna do something.
That's your demise.
They
That's your
cheat,
downfall.
She's gonna fucking stab you, something.
Yeah.
Oh, such a rare
Like, he's just like, I just
occurrence.
feel like your demise is women, so I want you to get it together before something like that.
Right.
Did you agree when he said that? Like, was part of you like, fuck, I was worried about that too, actually? Or was it a shock?
It was one time. I mean, as far as men, see, women. If you cheat and women find out you guys are just fighting, a man is shooting another man.
You know what?
Right.
That's right.
Stab another
This is actually, you're bringing up a good point. We do need to start get guns reacting more violently.
Honestly,
And
yeah.
thank you for bringing that to the table.
Ain't nobody taking us seriously when we're just pulling hair.
I know, but yeah, like more like weapons.
Yeah,
She
exactly.
called her, they met up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just,
No one ever says I got a
I
gal.
want to say this to the men too. I respect
Good point. That's a good point.
That's
respect
fucked
a
up.
woman calling another woman. Go ahead, woman to woman. This is what's going on. I just
Yeah.
want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
I hate when a man calls me and asks me some shit.
Because he never handles it well like that?
No, like me calling another man, say, hey, yo, man, bro to bro, are you sleeping with my girl? That
You
would
never
never
said.
happen.
Yeah.
Not doing it.
Right. Why?
It's not a manly thing to do.
Not a manly.
It's
Oh, okay. Corny.
And that's between me and him. Don't have that agreement.
Right.
He's not my brother. He's not my friend. I don't know you.
Yeah.
That's
No
all
energy
cool.
for you.
I do have one exception. You know she's married. You do know she's married, and you still then we have.
Yeah.
Other than that, fair game. And even then my issue is still with her.
Right.
But women calling women, I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. I understand that.
Have you ever had a woman try to?
Oh, sometimes, okay. But
She didn't even need to finish that sentence.
gotta
Christina.
ask.
Whatever it was, yes, it's happened to him.
Has your woman ever sucked your dick, Peter? No. Have you ever had a woman try to like pull a weapon on you or like fucking beat you up? A weapon? Hell yeah, girls. No, that's good. I'm glad you're okay. But I was just curious.
A woman
Like,
grabbed a knife and threatened to stab my dick.
Well, I mean, Peter, what did
Thought
you
she
do?
was
Yeah.
bluffing.
what'd you do, Peter?
And she jigged and I jumped and it caught my jeans right here.
Oh
If I
my
did not
God.
jump, she would've- So
Damn.
she came home kind of late, and I felt like it was some funny business. I was calling her, she wasn't answering, and all of a sudden she calls. And she's in the kitchen getting herself together, and she, oh yeah, you know, I did this and I was doing this, and so I called you like 15 times.
That's a lot of
At
time.
this time, I was like, I'm just trying to ask where you were at the time. Homeless. And we going back and forth. So while she's getting undressed, I'm getting dressed. She's like, you know, so I'm going to get my dick sucked. You just finished fucking, I'm going to do me.
You knew.
She chased me to the door, and before I opened the door, she was standing.
Whoa.
I said, you're not going to do it. And I jumped.
Yo, when a man says you're not gonna do that to a woman, if she wasn't gonna do it, she's gonna do it now.
Yeah. And
That was
I
a
kept
bold
those jeans.
statement.
I recently got rid of those jeans. I threw those jeans away. I always like, God, damn, look how close this was.
That was a minute ago. You
There's
could've freed that.
arteries. There's arteries inside like that. Fuck.
But she was hot as fuck.
That's why she was able to do that.
Yeah.
You
Hot chicks.
can't wield a knife if you're two.
Honestly, yeah, because it is like a joke. Like I don't even think you can take yourself seriously, which is fucked up. I don't like that.
Societally, we don't like that.
Yeah,
we
but-
we don't stand behind that here on the Guys We
Yeah,
Fuck
no,
podcast.
I mean that's even not. He wasn't even our character. That's why I don't take it serious. So, but
Right.
those are things. Yeah, I've been scratched up, beat up, hit up. You know, because I would never. My mom and dad used to drink and fight. And I
Oh,
was-
they fought. That's gotta be
and
tough.
I said I would never, ever in my life hit a woman like that. Me and my little sister screaming and crying.
Yeah.
We at
Oh.
my aunt's house. My mother's bruised up.
Oh, fuck.
We staying at a stranger's house, or one of my aunt's house, and because of her and my dad fought again. And we, you know, just so I said, there was nothing that would ever make me put my hands on.
Wow. So you
Except,
really
I have
took it
one
lessons.
exception.
Oh, what?
She's been on me.
Oh, that's it?
Yes.
You're
if
like,
you spit on my
nothing in the
face-
world can make me touch a woman.
But if your
except for
saliva
spit.
is
Yeah,
purposely
I had to
targeted,
take that back. I'm slapping the shit out.
what a line.
I'm not gonna punch you. I'm not gonna. But I'm slapping the fucking shit out of you.
Yeah.
What is it
Can't
about
do
spit?
spit.
Because it feels
I don't know.
it feels disrespectful. So my neighbor, when I was growing up, she spit through the screen door on my face, and it was honestly at that age I was like a lot. She had like an abusive police officer dad who was abusing the mom. So I'm like in my 6-year-old heart, I was like, there's a lot going on here.
That's true.
But
That's true.
There is. It's very
do
disgusting.
spit.
It's disgusting to have someone spit in your face.
Fuck
Yeah.
please don't spit on
I would
me.
never even
It-
share.
It doesn't even work out. It's too pitiful. And
doesn't
guess
work
what?
out.
It's assault. People don't know that. All my
Oh, that is true. Yeah, I did hear that. I
So,
remember hearing that.
This woman,
Bodily fluid. Yeah.
woman asked it, threatened to spit on me one day, and I said, I'm gonna smack you. I'm gonna smack you out your shoes. I promise you.
Yeah.
And this cop said, if you spit on me, you're going to jail.
Ooh.
Right.
You're in front of the cops.
Oh, wow.
It's also weird. Like I feel like if you're gonna spit on someone, you just do it. You don't say, "I'm gonna spit on you."
Right.
It was.
I'm like, are you making me
Feels like
horny?
a false
She's
line
like,
of
I should spit in your fucking face.
Oh,
In like a
okay.
sexy way or in a rude way?
Not rude. Mad.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, stranger.
I
Oh,
just spit in
you
your
didn't
face.
know.
Yeah.
I said, I'll tell you what.
Mm.
Here's my face. And then when she looked, oh, you'll see what this is after that. It was good. And that part, you know, that I can't take that, or another man getting mad at me or getting screaming out, suck my dick. A man saying that to me, I can't take that. Those are two things that I just.
Wow, these are your triggers.
Those go violent.
Yeah.
That's
Whoa.
straight. Those are words that lead to violence for me. 'Cause
Wow,
normally,
yeah.
there's nothing you can say to me to make me.
Yeah, to poke the bear.
Yeah, I'm just not.
Accept
I'm
that.
mostly cool under any circumstances. But those two things.
And what is it about suck my dick from a man that ruins your zen?
It's the disrespect of
Okay.
it. Where I grew up at, that
Uh-huh.
means you want it. That means you're ready to go to it.
Okay.
Like
Because where I'm from, that means less. And most New Yorkers.
Right.
Did you have gay
South
friends growing
Bronx,
up?
Huh?
Did you have gay friends growing up?
It wasn't a gay thing.
Oh.
It was nothing to do with gay. It's just the disrespect.
You
No, listen. I don't have no.
No, honestly, like you can approach dick sucking from a this is a weak point of view, but you can approach it from a this is a strong strength. I got a lot in my mouth that I can.
Well, listen, it depends on if it comes from a woman. You know what I mean? But
Right,
like,
it's totally different.
even some women say it disrespectfully.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
gotta be like, you don't have one love to knock it off. But
Yeah.
if a gay guy invited me to do that, you know, like to do that to me, I would, but I probably wouldn't take it to the level I would with a street dude.
Right. Because the street dude is intentionally like trying to take you down and be disrespectful.
Do you think I'm gay, bro? Did you hear something? Fuck out of here.
Yeah.
That, other than that, you know, that may be his out on that end. He has an out. A regular street dude saying that is he wants to fight.
Yeah,
He wants some type of smoke, and I'm with that if that's what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But gay guy, even then, you better.
Well, the
you
gay guy
better,
just thinks
you
you're
better
hot.
have heard something, or you better not know who I am. or
Right.
Just,
But then you
There's no
not.
man in this world that can say that to me and it don't lead to some shit.
Right.
But that's it, gay or not. Let me just be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. Like, is there
Well,
something?
all women, if you want, please.
No. I'm like, there is still this thing like finding out like someone is gay, like, or like being thought of to be gay if you're not is like
insulting.
it's like such a bad thing. Why?
Don't not for me.
No. So if someone had heard that you were.
I'm so comfortable in my skin, man. I got gay family members. But the woman,
No, I mean, I agree with
the
you.
woman that raised me is a lesbian. My mother had a lot going on, so she would leave me with my cousins.
Right.
I have cousins. No. I never had. I hung out in the village.
Yeah.
And then where I'm from, you gay if you hang out in the village. Back in the days as a kid, you hang down in Washington Square Park, Christopher Street.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm comfortable. That never bothered me.
Okay.
It don't even bother me if somebody came. So I heard somebody say that he. Okay.
Because it's not
Yeah.
true.
It's never happened. It's never happened. And guess what? I don't need to prove nothing to you. 'Cause so what?
Yeah. So the equivalent of getting that said to you is somebody coming up behind you, going like that, and going, "Let's go," kind of thing. Yeah. I get that.
Just where I'm from, that's just
Yeah.
the movement. They know it. That's why they said it.
Exactly. They know
You know
what
what I
they're
mean?
doing.
They ready to go next level. They know
Yeah.
it. They know it. Everybody knows it. That's where we come from. They know that's. I want to fight this dude. I want to really go next level. Which, let me tell you, flat out clearly, it's some ignorant shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super ignorant. I know that's gonna lead to a lawsuit. Everybody knows who I am.
Yeah.
I'm not here to tell you I'm not ignorant and stupid for reacting that way.
Right.
It's just is what it is. I don't want to leave here. People like, oh, he's so stupid. He would ruin his. I know it's stupid.
Yeah.
I just can't do it.
Yeah. Also it's a trigger.
It's my
Like,
pet peeve.
yeah, it turns it. You go from 0 to 100. That's the definition of a trigger.
Yeah, I don't-
Some people's trigger is a blue shirt because somebody with a blue shirt once fucked them up. Like it's you can't. Yeah, it's
I don't
body
even like saying this
sensation.
publicly because this will lead to somebody fucking saying.
Well, and that's
hurt
fucking
Peter
cruel.
anyway.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, when I fight on the show, so I host the show Cheaters.
Right.
So when people see me fight on the show, it goes viral. It's all over the shade room. It's all over.
World star.
Oh yeah. So now everybody that's on the show wants to fight me. So
Ugh,
you gotta be careful what you say out loud. 'cause
Right.
fucking-
I see.
Listen.
I wanted to ask one final question. It's like a two-parter. But what's the most in love you've ever been, and what are you like when you're in love?
Damn, that's a hard one. I'm not gonna say that would hurt. That would hurt so many women's feelings.
Oh,
They all want to be the one he was
But
supposed to love with.
what's the second part?
like
Yeah.
what are you like when you're in love? Like what is Peter like on the opposite?
I'm
ends of
walking on
love?
cloud nine.
Yeah.
I'm trying. It's always dope, especially at the beginning, right? You're trying to figure this person out and what we can do together that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Constantly trying to impress her.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, she doesn't know I play guitar. She doesn't know I play drums. Hey, I'll show up at the fucking comedy show.
The drum set. You're wheeling a drum
Yeah,
set.
sure. No, just jump on with the band.
Oh,
You know, I
yeah,
do that. You know,
yeah. Take her by surprise.
always trying to do spontaneous things, and that I think that's if you talk to any of my ex-girlfriends, you're so spontaneous. That's what I like. You
Yeah.
just never know where you're going.
It is a fun quality.
You know, it just didn't matter. We walking past some place over. Let's go check this out, or let's go to the park. You know, anything can happen.
Yeah.
But especially when you
need to
Why
lie
did
to
I
that
just
person.
Why did I? So there's another thing that I did, men doing. I'm still guilty of it. I've done it. I'll stand a woman up in a heartbeat.
Oh, stand her
But
up.
let her think I'm coming. No, I'm not.
Wait,
Mr. Big.
what is up with that?
Because I don't want to go out with somebody else. I'm a hater.
Wait, you don't want her to go out with somebody else?
Right.
Oh, it's like
So
a
if
fucking...
I don't show up, she's gonna go with a plan B. So how do I stop that
Wow.
shit? Hey, I promise you, what time? Oh, I'm running late. I'm coming. I do that shit all the time.
And you were out with another
I'm a
woman.
hater, man. No, even if I whether I was out with another girl back in the days, I could be out with another girl.
Right.
But now you're just like getting food with your boys.
I used to be crazy. I used to do
The
shit.
Subway
like-
sandwiches.
Before I went out, so sad to say.
If I fucking found that out and you stood me up for Subway with your boys.
I did that.
No,
I've done that.
Peter.
There's so many women that's gonna.
Well, I'm glad you're being honest.
There's so many women that's gonna watch this show like.
He was eating a footlong. I knew it.
There's something else I used to do back in the days. It's fucked up. I'm gonna give y'all this one. This is a podcast for this one.
Can't wait.
My first dates. I would say, hey, I left something at the studio, my rhyme pad, or I gotta go by a chick's house, have sex, then come down and go out.
Wow.
I've done that so many times.
Wow.
Crazy.
And that's
I
just-
was crazy.
It's crazy that you did it, and then also that you made her wait for it. Like you could have just scheduled that earlier.
Yeah, like I go out with you at 7 and you at 9.
Yeah. No, I get it. Man,
Also,
going
too,
to my
I'm actually learning a lot from you.
I'm
This is
keeping it real.
fascinating.
I used to pull up at somebody's house. They'd be like, hey, I was recording here. I said, I left somebody for 5 minutes. I'll be right there. I'm so sorry.
So you literally check in with woman A, then go get a nut from woman B, and then go back to woman
I
A.
kind of did that once
Hey,
at
go
my
out.
birthday party.
Wow.
Felt pretty cool.
Wow.
The thing is, because you know you're not having sex over here. You know this is
sure.
probably a project you got to work on. It's
Yeah,
no
put some
time.
time.
So how do you relax yourself, not think about nothing? This was
And
my
that's more than jerking off in the car or
This is my
anything.
thinking now. I'm drinking.
He doesn't need to. It's
Most
Peter
of
Gunn.
my-
Come on, Christina.
My friends don't
I was gonna
believe-
say, no, you know what? I absolutely
Never.
believe you. And I was gonna
I don't
say,
do that.
if you also masturbate a lot, that's crazy.
I've never done it. That's not my thing.
You've never done it?
masturbated?
I'm swear on all
I
of
believe you.
my mother just died.
That's crazy.
Do you know how to do it?
Wait, have you? Yeah.
Not my thing. So
But how do you know?
But like gun to your head or gun to your dick, that woman comes back. With a knife to your dick.
I mean, it's easy to figure out. It's like pulling out and
I was
getting
surprised
it
by
out.
some things the first
But it's not
time.
my thing.
There's some methods.
I've never finished myself ever.
Wow.
Never.
I'm surprised.
And that's because, and most people say that's bullshit. He's lying.
I know you're
What about
not.
when he was a kid? When I was a kid, I was already active for the wrong reasons. I don't want to talk about his talk.
Yeah,
I was
well.
active early.
Okay.
Yeah. We've had a lot of conversations about that on the show.
So by the time I've gotten to the point where I wanted it,
Yeah.
it was available. So I never did. So I never wasn't. And I would probably, if I did try, be there for 2 hours trying to figure that. Get that.
So wait,
I know it's a woman somewhere waiting.
So I always thought this.
What if you put some lipstick right here?
That's still a man's hand. Of a strong
is that-
man's hand with
but
calluses
listen, though,
on it.
right?
Good.
There's like some yarn hair.
Oh,
Eyes.
I've had women that finish me though.
Tiffany?
I had women that
Yeah.
good at that.
Yeah, that jerking off.
She was
Yeah.
wonderful at
Well, also, you're the exact guy a woman would want to jerk off with because it's like, well, you've never done it to yourself, so I can't be bad. You know?
that. No, she was perfect. She
That's
was good.
great.
She had a towel, the warm oil, the towel.
Wow.
Uh-oh. We gotta step it up.
She was round. She was
Wait,
round.
what'd she do?
Then the sneakers.
She got the deluxe.
Wait, she got warm
treatment.
oil?
Yeah.
Warm oil.
She was great at that.
Wow. 2 hands like this? Nice.
Oh,
that's
I don't want to brag when you say the 2-hand thing. I don't want people to think I'm bragging.
You don't know.
You got a big dick, you got a big dick. It's
No,
fine.
I'm not there yet.
Oh, okay.
Nah, yeah, she was just good at that.
Two-hand
It was
blowjobs.
like
Check your
spa.
privilege at the
It was
door.
like- It was like spa treatment. Music,
Right.
just
Wow.
like soft music, and she
Lavender.
was wonderful with that. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
It took a long time for me and her to stop seeing each other. too.
Right. Well,
That-
good at
I couldn't
handies.
give that up.
I'm sure you
That's
figured
very-
something
Very
out.
handy. She came in handy.
Also, but here's the thing though. It makes sense that you don't jerk off if you never have. But also too, when you associate coming with another woman being involved, then that makes all the sense. Because some people have sex with a lot of women for so so many different reasons, like a plethora. There's so many reasons that you would want to fuck a lot, and some are healthy, and some you could consider not healthy, but whatever. It's whatever it is. But if you are associating coming with needing to have another woman there, like, yeah, like that would make me a sex addict too.
And
Like if
women are available. If you, I've always had women available. There was never a time I wasn't. There's never a long period of time didn't have a woman available to hang with.
Right.
In the short time that I did, I was able to just shit. But
yeah.
I just
It was for like a day.
I argue with my friends, even some of my family members.
Wow.
Because I got friends that jerk off everything.
Right. Well, and sometimes some guys do it multiple times a day.
All type of shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
I swear. But
Well,
nobody
energetically.
believes you're the first two to say I believe you.
Oh, I 100% believe you.
Nobody believes me.
And I almost wish I would stop masturbating so that I would associate like the only time I would have like an orgasm is with sex. That also makes sex more enjoyable. Like it does a lot of things to deepen the experience and to make you want to have multiple partners. Like it makes all sense.
I want to ask you a question. I feel like older women
Tread lightly, Peter.
Yes,
Okay. All right.
Y'all not older. But I'm just asking, just in general. It seems like the sex drive drops. They say it gets. I'm noticing. To me, it gets less.
I'm 38 and I'm hornier than ever.
I've never been so horny.
See, that's not old.
Well, I can only tell you up to the time
we've
that
only
I've
been this
gotten
old.
to.
You got friends that's older than I know.
Yeah, oh my God. But no, Susan Bratton we've had on the podcast. She's in her 60s or 50s.
She still likes
late 50s. Oh, she's got orgies for her birthday. She's a sex
Let's just
educator.
call my mom.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
She's like Susan's like super hot and like very open about how much she loves sex, loves multiple. I believe she's poly, but she's like, you can have, great sex until your 90s. I'm like, I don't know if I want that, but there's a lot of women I know that are just, I think, like attracts like, so like horny women are just around a lot. Like all my female friends are super horny.
I think it's different for everyone too. I think a lot of these older women, maybe they've been married to a guy who's like not bringing it, and that's what made it go away.
Sometimes we can be less horny because we're sick of like dudes bullshit or something like that.
Yeah, listen, I'm sure I've been down there. I know a few women had to be sick of me. But, I always want to go.
Yeah, I feel like the older I get, the better at sex. Like the more I learn about sex, the more you have sex. You're like, wait, let's explore this, and like, wait, what's this? And you look for things that make you feel like a little like adventurous and maybe a little nervous, And so as long as you follow that, like, yeah, I don't think it'll ever go away.
It's very important, ladies.
We agree, and we know you agree too. Well, thank you so much, Peter, for being on the show. Did you have any other questions you wanted to?
No, I mean, I think you've really answered everything.
You're fantastic.
Beautiful. This was a journey.
What's
Being honest.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Do you want to promote anything? Where can we find you?
No, man, listen, I'm about to shoot a show called Graves End. It's a mob series from the 80s. They're on their second season. It's my first season, so that starts.
Are you gonna be an actor in it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Congratulations.
I'm doing a little a couple little independent films, but this show, I'm excited.
Very cool.
And just look for me on Instagram,
Yeah.
Peter Guns 174, and you'll find out what's going on from there. So I got a couple 50th anniversary shows coming up, and I don't know the dates. I don't want to stop.
Oh, there's one last question. Have you ever worked with Beyonce?
Well, we were on the same label. We did a couple shows together. Yeah, Beyonce, Jay-Z.
Yeah.
I worked with him. Yeah, Beyonce was. I haven't seen Beyonce since Miami years ago. Beyonce, I did a song with Mariah Carey. That was my remix.
Wow.
That's the song. Yeah, we were all signed to Sony.
Oh, nice.
So Columbia Records, we were all over there. So we all, once you on the label, you all end up in.
Same.
Yeah, but at that time, Beyonce was opening up for me. And now,
Shut
Beyonce
up.
now.
Oh my God. So Beyonce.
When I see Beyonce, I'm like, oh, you went to the moon and left me.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
That
Beyonce.
woman is the most impressive person I've ever come across. I'm a huge Beyonce fan.
Me too.
Go to all of her shows.
I think she's amazing. She's one of the greatest entertainers, if not my favorite female entertainer of all years. Beyonce.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. I love a lot of people, but I love Beyonce as well. Beyonce and her husband Jay-Z is my favorite rapper.
He's in a fantastic. I've seen all the Run 1 and 2 tours. You're like, everyone was there for Beyonce, and then you're like, oh yeah, Jay-Z's incredible. Like you forget, and then he comes on, you're like, fuck, god damn, he's so talented.
Yeah. So yeah, so shout out to J and B. Cool with Beyonce, cool with Jay-Z. That's my guy.
Yeah, he's a cool one. Cool, thanks, Peter.
Of course.
Thank you very much. This has been Guys We Fuck, the anti-slut shaming podcast. We'll talk to you next Friday.
How you doing? I'm Jimmy Falcone, alias Badu. Back when I was a cop, keeping the family business away from my actual family was a freaking tap dance. Like the time Petey got himself a girl.
Men are
I got a lot of people who like the serial killer fantasy too. Like
They want to be killed or they want to kill?
they like want to date the serial killer. Like
Ladies.
Like, do you want?
We are here with Nicoletta Heidegger. You are a sexologist, you're a sex therapist, you're a psychotherapist. That's right, is that the
Psychotherapist.
psychoanalysis? Psychotherapist?
Yeah, that's right.
You're a psychotic therapist.
Totally.
A lot of people who are psychotic do turn into therapists. They're like, okay, that's good. You have a couple like niche areas of expertise that I would love to go into. One of them we were just talking about, we can start with, is equine therapy. Horses are like, I've been on a couple ranches with horses, like over like a stay on a ranch, and I'm like, I want to crawl out of my bed in the middle of the night and just stare at the horse or lay with it. There's something so magnetic about a horse.
Yeah, it really brings people in. They are really magical. And I think, whenever I was telling you this before, but whenever I tell people that I do sex therapy and equine assisted therapy with horses, everyone wants to know like who's fucking the horse.
Right. Which is actually legal in a lot more places than it would be nice to know. Yeah.
How many?
A lot of countries it's still legal to fuck animals.
Wow.
Not here, and that's not what we do. It's
Yay.
about working with the support and partnership of a horse to work through shit that you're struggling with.
Yeah, I did one equine class at a place a couple summers ago, and it was really interesting. Like, the horse had to earn your trust, but there was no verbal communication and really not much. It was just they were going off with the body language. The horse really read the body language pretty accurately.
Yeah, which is, ideally in sex we have verbal and nonverbal communication, but that's a lot about sex too, is like, how do I know when I'm a yes? How do I know when the person I'm connecting with is a yes? Like, what's indicating to me that we're ready for connection? What does it take to trust? Like, there's all this overlap that's actually pretty profound.
Yeah, people's lack of reading body language in sexual situations continues to blow my mind late into my 30s. I mean, I've been fucking guys where I'm just like, I am phony, I am not into this, and they have absolutely no clue.
Yeah.
Well, it's just lack of attunement. People
Yeah.
have a really hard time being in their body, and so if they can't be in their body, it's going to be really hard to be present and attuned with somebody else. And so they're just like probably trying to do their best to just be like, well, how do I look? What am I doing? Am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And then to track themselves in view, they're just like,
It's too much going on.
yeah, or they're just self-centered and focused on their own pleasure.
Which
for a
happens a
variety
lot.
of reasons.
Yeah. So with
Yeah.
the equine therapy, like, how does that help with a sexual connection? Like, how does a person get help through that with a horse with you?
It's really
And not without fucking it. It doesn't sound like
without a gross. I know. Really though, it's all like relational work. And so in equine assisted therapy, we're working with everything from like trauma to how you connect with people to building trust to regulating your nervous system. And so all the same themes and skills that I think are needed to experience pleasure, even in a non-sexual way, are helpful in doing this equine assisted work. And so everything, like I said, from kind of figuring out like, how do I approach other entities that have their own personality, right? How do I express my boundaries? How do I receive boundaries from somebody else? What does it take for me to build trust with something that I might be like scared about? How much do I use this other sentient being as an object for what I want it to do for me, as opposed to trying to connect with it as some kind of equal connection? And so obviously it's not necessarily working on, you know, sexual education things per se, but all the same themes to just like be a connected relational human are all things we can learn in connecting to a beautiful magical animal.
Word. What's an example of an activity you would have somebody do with a horse in the ring?
Yeah, so for example, one thing that I saw one time, and I'm changing some details obviously for confidentiality, but we were working with one person and they were really struggling with not feeling special. They were kind of like, does anyone else struggle with that?
Yeah.
Me? But they were like, yeah, I feel like nobody remembers me. I feel like I'm not special. I feel like when I connect with people, they just like don't think of me. They don't include me.
Well, none of us are special.
Right, none of
That's
us
the
are.
key, you know?
Well, yes, and I think interactions and human connection can be unique and special, and there are ways to be, I don't know, to feel special in the important people in your life.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to come to therapy with. Like,
Well, they were dealing with like
Certainly
other
is.
issues, I would say.
okay.
Yeah, but this was like they had come before, and so they had connected with this one donkey in a session where they had been at equine assisted therapy before. They connected with this donkey, and they came with that same projection of like, this donkey won't remember me. Like he doesn't care about the like fun like connection we had last time where we were playing with this thing and doing this, and so then this same thing happened, and what I noticed was this donkey clearly like wanted to connect with this person and seemed to have memory of their connection, but everything that donkey did, the person like didn't register it. They weren't registering this like animal's desire to connect with them.
Because they were in their own head.
Right.
Exactly. They were just blowing it off.
Wow. So instead of not that you would ever say this, but like I could say this because I'm not a therapist and this is not my client. I'd be like, Bill, you worried about the wrong thing. But a way to communicate that message much clearer is to have an animal that's not going to lie to you, but also is not going to offend you, because it seems like it's possible that person takes things personally. I would say likely.
Yeah. If a donkey just walked up and peed on him.
And looked him right in the eye as he did it.
That would be maybe really special for some people.
Yeah, he's like,
You know
you're
what?
mine. You're mine.
If you
now."
like water sports.
Yeah.
But so I think a reflection that I would say though to that person and did say was like, hey, from my angle, I'm kind of noticing this animal doing all these things, which I'm registering as like interest to connect with you, but you're not registering that way. Let's talk about that.
Ooh,
Now you're
such a
making the
good tool.
donkey not feel special. So now it's on you.
It's on me. And so then at the end of the session, when we were getting ready to go, this client was walking away like back to the entrance of what we call the arena, and the donkey just like put his head on the client and walked with him the whole way. And the client just started, I like almost teared up. I'm gonna tear up right now. But the client just started crying because they were like, oh my God. It just like all clicked.
Yeah.
The donkey was like, is that enough for you?
I need more love. Validate me a little bit more.
That is so interesting. I can name on one hand, maybe two, dogs and cities. There was like Minneapolis. I was in a bookstore traveling, and I'll never forget this dog I met. It was a blonde dog. Colin and I were, and it just came up to us like it's known us for years, and I'll never forget that. Like, there is something really special about an animal connecting with you that it's not messy. Like the way a human connects with you, you're like, do you want something? Or there's so many just questions, a checklist of questions that you kind of ask yourself. But with animals, you're never really worried, like, do they like me for me? Like, yes, they don't. They're not wanting to like get anything out of you.
I feel like whenever an animal doesn't like me, that's when I feel the most shit about myself. Like if I meet a friend's dog and it doesn't want to love me, I'm like, I hate myself.
People get really offended when my dog like barks at them, and I'm like, guys, you got. It's just like you don't have a treat. Is basically the bottom line here.
Yeah.
I should be the treat. I'm the treat.
No. My dog's like, do you have a treat? If not, move away, bitch.
Fuck off.
Bye, bitch.
Yeah, so it's really just it is experiential type of therapy. So instead of just talking about the thing we're learning about, getting to experience it in real time and really see and process through that in real time with the partnership that then that's amazing.
It has there been any studies, like, the way like therapists have to take care of their own mental health? Like, so when we're using animals for a therapeutic nature, like, can our shit get on them? Our toxicity, our trauma,
literal shit, energetic shit.
yeah.
Yes, I think a lot of people use equine assisted therapy in a more like treating the animal as an object kind of way. And it's like, okay, just serve us. But the way that I've been trying to train and approach it is really ideally what's good for the animal is good for the human. What's good for the human is good for the animal, and what's good for both of us is good for the relationship. And these are from some principles of this training I've been doing called natural lifemanship. And basically, the ideal is that we're also making sure the horse is doing well.
Right, because
You
it
know?
seems like if someone was just like going up and crying on a horse all day, maybe the horse wouldn't love that. Maybe, maybe the horse would, because animals can feel depressed. I mean, I don't know that the research has been done that they can note whether it's not that, it's not really the same like level, but they feel what we would interpret as depression for sure.
Yeah, they absolutely can get anxious. They can
Yeah.
they can dissociate. They can go into like trauma response appeasement.
Yeah.
And so knowing horse behavior and having somebody watching and making sure that the equine is okay and that it's getting breaks and that it's also getting something from the relationship is the most ethical way to do it.
Right.
But yeah, I grew up more like competing with horses, so it was very much more an object way of like you will perform,
Right.
which is now I've learned is kind of fucked up.
Yeah. And there's this, and also you're just missing out on this beautiful symbiosis relationship you have with it. So, like, the most magical interaction I have is ducks. Some geese are
I
cool.
want to hear about these
Not all
duck
geese
interactions.
are great, but the ones that are cool, you're like, damn, that's special.
Yeah.
Well, we also like to say, like, we as humans, we like to be like horses and dogs. They love having jobs, and I go, do they? Do they love having jobs? I don't know. Like as far as like the horse racing, it's like the most well taken care of horses. Are they? They're shot if they get injured.
But this is
I know.
something I've been trying to learn with people that I'm better at with people. It's my job, but that I'm learning with horses is how to tell them something's just an appeasement or if they're actually in collaboration, which is the same with sex, right? We've been talking before about like, okay, are people actually noticing if I'm into this or not, or do I just look like I'm into it because I'm in my trauma response appeasement, just being like, oh yeah, it's fine, it's all good. So on the outside, it might look very similar. So actually, you're just sort of like dissociating and just being like, yes,
That is the face.
I'm in it. Oh, I love it. It's the best I've ever had. So it's similar to like, okay, are we actually collaborating? Or is this just using another thing or person to get what you want?
Yeah, is this a dance or is this a one-man show? This is two one-man shows happening at the same time, which is so sad when sex is like that.
Yeah.
You talk about sex magic, and then the phrase "using pleasure to create the life you want." I mean, that has Christine written all over it. Use pleasure to create the life you want is like everything I've ever wanted.
Good,
To
it's
a fault.
possible.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, so for the people listening who are like, fuck magic, woo-woo, whatever bullshit, like, a lot of what we say is magic is actually science. And there's a big overlap between the two. And so sex magic has a lot to do with using pleasure and the power of pleasure to create change in your brain and in your life. So in short, basically, when we're playing, when we're experiencing pleasure, there's a bunch of great neurochemicals happening in our brain that create kind of this awesome chemical cocktail that allows for neuroplasticity. So for people who don't know what that is, it's basically our brain's ability to change. Kind of similar to what psychedelics do, they increase the brain's neuroplasticity, the openness to create new beliefs. And so when we're engaging in pleasure and play, those chemicals open up a bit to allow us to be more open to changing things. So if you're kind of into like maybe it's like affirmations or something, if you can pair that with pleasure in an erotic way,
I attract abundance.
literally, I'm serious though. Like, if you compare that with your masturbation practice or with some kind of self-pleasure practice, this thing that you want, and you're saying,
I literally have a joke about exactly what you're saying right now because my therapist said this to me.
And did you try it?
No, I made a joke about her.
Well, I work with a lot of comedians in LA, and so the things you joke about, maybe the shit that could be helpful.
Wait, so can you give me an example? Like, are you actually saying a mantra, a non-sexual mantra while you masturbate? Is like an example of one?
Yeah.
Like, what's the mantra? Like, yeah, give me a specific.
Like, I deserve pleasure.
Oh, God, saying that while I masturbate.
I know it's hard for a lot of people.
You wouldn't enact that mantra if you thought, like, if you knew you deserved pleasure, then that's not really helpful. But so that would be helpful for somebody who kind of has this discovering this subconscious thing that she or he
Yeah.
does deserve pleasure.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be sexual pleasure. It can be another thing that you do that's fun and pleasurable, just something, like I said, that kind of opens your mind. There's a lot of studies on the power of playing pleasure, like I said, to create new against new belief systems.
Yeah.
So kind of like the science of repeating something is going to create your narrative, your story, but then adding in this ingredient of opening up your brain a little bit is going to magnify the power of that science.
Yeah. Oh, I love like hacks like that, neural hacks.
And then the woo-woo people are like, it's magic, right?
Right.
I'm creating energy, I'm creating magic, and it's kind of using the same mechanism, but some people who are spiritual would like that approach, and science people are like, okay, this is neuroscience, like I can dig this.
Sure, neuroscience is pretty accurate. Like all the studies on plants being sentient, and then there's studies about how like taping positive water words to a bottle of water and negative words to a bottle of water, freezing the compounds, looking under a microscope and realizing the positive words. The molecules were just gorgeous. And yeah, so I did that with a spray bottle.
Love, happiness, joy. I know, look, it feels fucking cheesy at first doing it when you're like touching yourself. And, but like I'm telling you, it fucking works.
I imagine once you get through that of like this feels corny,
Yeah.
there's like good stuff in there. So,
Yeah, I can attest to it. Clients can attest to it. Science can attest to it. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but it really can be a cool, fun way to actually make change. I think the main thing is when people come into therapy, they're just like, this is fun.
yeah.
A lot of people, it's hard work, right? And I really believe that it doesn't all have to be like miserable, tough, hard work. That we can gain things through pleasure, through fun, through playfulness, through kind of that like childlike wonder. And when the people who, yeah, sure, some workers can be hard, but who's gonna keep doing it if it's all just hard and miserable? Like, I'd rather masturbate and tell myself I deserve pleasure than like just do EMDR trauma processing forever. So, yeah,
Hug donkeys.
yeah,
Horses.
exactly.
Wow, healing can be fun.
Do you think you'll try it now after hearing this? Are you gonna
I would ruin the joke.
Make
I'll
another
just think of my own joke the whole time.
Yeah.
like what's more important, the joke or
The joke. Well, the joke is my pleasure.
joke is my pleasure.
Yes.
Okay.
The joke is always the pleasure.
Okay, so maybe in saying it while you're doing the pleasure of comedy.
Listen, I'm not in that. I practice Wicca. I'm very into a lot of magic. I just question the actual scientific angle of it. Like mantras and stuff like that. Of course, like anyone who believes in like woo-woo as I do it's completely backed up from a woo-woo perspective. I have to do a little more research as far as like the scientific perspective. Yeah, send me some studies. I would really love to read them.
Yeah.
Because that's like, I think, yeah, that's fine. Okay, let's see. You also talk a lot about something that we never can get anyone to talk about on this show, which is like the shadow parts of sexuality, like pedophilia specifically. I know it says necrophilia and stuff like that, but I think specifically pedophilia, that's something we talk a lot about on this show. And we've been talking about it for 10 years. And like people, anytime we have a therapist or anyone who you seem should be in the space that they should be able to talk about it, they're kind of like, well, if someone came to me with those kind of desires, I would refer them to somebody else.
Yeah, and then who?
Exactly, and we never can get that person. And obviously, it's a desire that I think we're learning more and more every year. Many people have. So how do we talk about it? Do you have an approach to healing it, to quelling it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine a pedophile working with a horse in equine therapy. That's gotta be healing.
I actually I wouldn't say I've worked in that intersection before, but thank you for asking the question. And yeah, look, a lot of people are afraid to talk about this topic because it is understandably very triggering for a lot of people. Sure. And when we're triggered, we're not really able to listen with empathy, with understanding, with curiosity, with compassion. And so whenever we bring up the topic, it activates people, and then instead people are just like, they'll say to me like, fucking you, so like people do not like talking about this because it really scares them. And I get it. Like I work with survivors of assault, and I also work with perpetrators. Because somebody
They need to be healed.
Well, exactly. In what instance does someone say like "fuck you, you should die"? Like what was that? What is an example of an interaction where that happened?
talking about it educationally on podcasts or YouTubes or shows like that, about repeat messages, things like that.
Like showing any bit of empathy for the perpetrators,
or just science. Like,
Right.
what happens when people are isolated, don't have mental health support, don't have community support. They don't do very well. So, you know.
It's crazy. That's why we're so like, how the fuck are we not talking about this way more often than because so many people I know personally, more than 65% of them have been affected by pedophilia in some way. Either they were molested, there's a pedophile in their family, or somebody in their family. And it's like, okay, this is as common as rape, and rape is very common. And so we gotta, the kind of one of the most obvious free cures or like ways to cure this is to talk about it.
I mean, you asked like, how do people talk about it? I think people often want to know like, what is this really? Like, why does this happen? What kinds of people do this? How do we treat this? So happy to answer any of those questions because I know it's a tender topic.
I mean,
people.
all of the above, I think we're interested in. Literally, when we say people are unwilling to talk about it, and like we can talk about it, but only to a certain extent without having done our own, you know, like we don't have a degree in it.
Yeah, I'll be curious how you two have talked about it. But basically, I do want to preface by saying that some of the research that I did in one of my grad programs was around non-offending minor attracted people.
Okay.
So this is basically people who have a level of the desire for, you know, youth under 18, but are either committed to or don't feel at risk of acting on it.
Okay.
And there's actually a lot of people who fall into this spectrum because it is actually a spectrum.
Right.
And they're actually, this is controversial, but there is a lot of research out there that it actually looks a bit more like an orientation in the way that it is expressed, the way that it's formed, the way that it shows up for people. And that's not to give permission to act on it by any means, but that there are a lot of people who do have some level of this interest who don't necessarily have the other risk factors like antisocial personality or other personality traits to act on it, but they do have this desire and they feel an immense amount of shame and like, what the fuck do I do with this? I need support. They go to a therapist. The therapist is like, I don't want to work with you, but I don't know who to refer you to. And then they're like, well, I guess I'll just not exist.
Well, that's interesting because I always thought of it as an orientation. So what would like were people thinking of it? As mental illness?
Is it right?
Well, I think a lot of people don't.
We used to think gay was a mental illness. Which is like, what the fuck?
I 100% always thought. I mean, even Louis. Speaking of you know, equating things to jokes as we do as community. I mean, even Louis C.K. has did a joke on Saturday Night Live, basically speaking about it as if it were an orientation. Like I don't, like they don't, that's so it's actually odd to me.
I guess people just aren't comfortable saying it's an orientation, right? Is that
Well, I think a lot of people from the LGBTQ community already have so much hate and stigma.
And
so
pedophilia
that used to be
homosexuality have been wrapped up, and it's like, that's fucking not, they don't relate.
Well, that used to be the argument, right? Okay, well, if we say gay marriage is okay, then when, next is bestiality, next is fucking a kid, next is this.
Well, child marriage has been legal, like, way before the dawn of time, like, centuries ago. Like, people were, and not that long ago, people were marrying off kids.
Well, I know this is kind of ignorant to people to think about, but just to also link the names, so pedophilia is the physical or emotional attraction to prepubescent children. Hebophilia is like more like, I might be getting these two wrong actually, but hebophilia is more like teens and adolescents, and then ephebophilia, again, I know I'm confusing the two, is teens.
Yeah, we don't worry, we
categorize it.
And even when you say like, people get mad about that too.
Like a high school teacher's not going to be a pedophile if he's trying to fuck a student. He's going to be a hebephile.
Doesn't mean that it's okay or that
it's not. But like if you an ephebophile and a pedophile, two different danger levels, I would say, as far as like what's going to happen. Of course, both bad.
Do they have people that are attracted to all of it, like 3-year-old? Because there's some people that are attracted to babies. Talk about like uncomfortable, like, oh god, I don't know how to talk about this, but it's true because I know people that were molested as babies. I'm like, what the fuck? What does it do to your psyche, man? But like, can you have people that are attracted to a baby and a 14-year-old?
Yeah, like I said, there's kind of a spectrum, and then some people are minor attracted only, and some people are also attracted to adults. And I think a couple things, maybe you've already said this, but pedophilia or minor attraction is different from pedophilic disorder. So, person can have the attraction without meaning that they have the disorder. In order for it to be the disorder, they have to have either acted on it with a non-consenting entity, and or it's causing them significant distress. And so, like I said, there are a lot of people out there who maybe have this attraction, but they aren't offending. And what we know about sex offending is that not all sex offenders necessarily have like pedophilic interest. They might be offending for other reasons, for other personality disorder things, or other power things, or substance or other things going on. And so the two are not necessarily always overlapped.
Wait, so you're saying you can sexually offend a young person and not be a pedophile? Is that what you just said?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. And for like a power,
For other reasons,
cetera.
other things going on for
Interesting.
that person.
Yeah.
And I mean,
and
but
then
like,
you can be pedophile without being a sex offender.
right, but that part I knew. The first part is like, so when like people are getting arrested though, are they doing a proper mental evaluation to separate people who are offending because they have these pedophilic urges or something else, or are they not even doing that? I'm guessing
So
they're not,
advanced.
I'm guessing they're not doing that kind of work.
No, I mean, look,
wish they
either way, the impact
They're like
is
shooting.
harm.
They're like shooting people with Down syndrome. What am I talking about?
Yeah.
I thought the cops are
They're not
sitting down.
considering what your motivations were.
Well, no,
Right,
and then obviously they're not looking at it in terms of therapy
Yeah.
support, because this is not something I was taught in my initial grad program.
Right.
This is something I had to do, specialized learning and in my human sexuality master's on to get that education. But there's a lot of pushback even for people researching this. For example, yeah, I had a colleague that I knew who got fired from their research position because they were doing research on this topic, and they also happened to be trans. And so they were doing research on this topic, and then some really conservative folks found this out, really came for them, complained to the university, said that they were grooming young people, and then young people refused to go to the classes, and they got death threats and fired and all this stuff. And so even research, we're trying to find better therapy approaches for former sex offenders and or for people who have this attraction. There's a huge amount of pushback because it freaks people out.
Yeah, we were very familiar with the lack of studies around this. Like, people were scared to fund it.
Yeah.
Like, these are the studies that don't get funded.
Yeah.
So wait, so what was I want a little more information about it. How were people saying it was grooming? Like what part of the research would be grooming?
I mean, I don't want to overly speculate, but I do
Right.
think there was also this layer of that person being trans.
Yeah,
and
for
a lot
sure.
of trans people being accused, or LGBT people being accused of grooming behavior.
Well, yeah, because I was like, now
They were just
we're
saying it.
conflating being trans with being gay and being like, I'm like,
Being
everyone's
pedophile,
just
all this.
mixing everything up together. I'm like,
Yeah.
trans, and that's you're just making things up now.
Yeah.
And they were saying that by researching this, that they were supporting pedophilia.
Right. And it's like, you're dumb.
Just-
No, we're not.
Yeah, like we all have the same goal to like protect
End it.
humans, protect young, vulnerable people,
Right.
and to offer ideally a standard of care for people who need therapy and mental health support. But a lot of people would just rather them just die. They don't want them to get
Which is so crazy.
But they're gonna keep being born.
Exactly.
yeah.
And it's like, you have to change the way we do something. Like, we're following the definition of insanity.
Yeah, someone listening right now is gonna give birth to a pedophile.
I know.
Like, I don't
That's
know
crazy
what
that
to
you're-
tell you about it. So,
Yeah.
Thanks for being willing to
You know
talk
what?
about
If I
it.
gave birth to a kid,
it's one of our favorite topics.
and that kid ended up being a pedophile, I know what to do. I have the resources. I wonder, at what age do kids start to, like, what do you tell a person that the kid's a pedophile?
Well, I guess you have to age out of being like
The age
the
group
victim
you're
yourself.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, so that's number one. That's why they think that it looks a little more like an age-based orientation, because it's like, okay, when I'm the same age as this person, I have this romantic and or physical desire, attraction, and then it just
Right. And even the use of the phrasing, when it changed and some more progressive people were trying to say minor attractive person, people got really angry about that. And that one I can actually, I kind of can see it, because it does, like, even though it is an orientation, it's like an unaccepted orientation, so it almost is like, it's like, what is it?
I think people are afraid of giving it permission.
Yeah, it's like, what is it,
Right.
like man-boy love association? It's kind of like something like,
that's different, yeah.
so it's exactly, it feels like it's, I read a lot of articles from both the right and the left on that, and it was like, it was trying to make it seem like it was an accepted thing in society.
I mean, the term, I think, goes by people who have the attraction.
Yeah.
And so they kind of come from an sexual assault assailant people are the ones who are most interested in the research I've done on this because they kind of know the complexities of it and really figuring out, well, what would make things safer.
I have an uncomfortable question. Sure. I'm like, I'm a little like to ask. I'm like, just fucking ask it. Fantasizing about it. If somebody's a pedophile, like, how do they get recovery therapy for that? Because you can't cap it, but like, do they get encouraged to fantasize about it? Like, would a sex doll, like a sex doll? Like, I know that's a fucked up thought, but like, but then it's not a person. It's an object that you're just channeling that through for a second. Like, I don't know. Is that something that's helpful? Like, what kind of,
like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends, you know, what's going on for that person. And kind of like what you were saying, I feel like there is this, the reason that I started like gaining some interest in empathy and compassion for this was someone who was minor attracted came and talked to my grad program and one of my master's programs, and they were talking about exactly what you were saying. Like, I've been looking for therapy for 10 years. I can't find a therapist to work with me. Like, I have this interest. I don't know what to do with it. And like, what am I supposed to do? How do I make any meaningful connections? And I like started crying because I was just like, wow, I can't imagine what I would do. Like, my relational and sexual exploration is so key to me. What if it was just so bad and so wrong? And I see clients all the time who have shame and things about things that they could do but aren't doing because they feel ashamed. And then this is one that you like shouldn't be doing and can't do and what to do.
Right.
So that's when I was like, wow, what would I do? And so in terms of treatment, it kind of depends. And so I think a lot of people assume it's just a sexual interest, but for a lot of folks who have some part of the spectrum, there's also like romantic.
Oh, interesting.
Like
well,
Lolita.
Well, and Alice in Wonderland. Lewis Carroll was in love with Alice Liddell, who was fucking sick. So I'm like, ooh, how, she ain't gonna offer you much intellectually, but he was in love with her. He would write her the love letters he wrote her. This were beautiful. And I'm like, good.
Man, I just wish we would get one like that one day.
Well, but look at it. I want someone to love me the way Lewis Carroll loved Alice at 6.
Damn.
That's merch.
Well, we can have that fantasy, right? I mean, how many people love daddies and mommies these days? In a fantasy role play world.
Right.
How popular is teen porn? Right?
Oh my God.
How popular is youth? How much of us want to be youthful forever?
Yeah.
Right? There's all this sexualizing of youth, but nobody's talking about how a lot of us might have a weird interest in some level of youth that's like disturbing.
Yeah, anyone who's ever watched Toddlers and Tiaras has to know that there's a problem in society.
People,
I'm making that kid wear heels. She's 3. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, look, I'm not the fantasy police. Like, fantasies do not equal behavior.
Sure.
I think a lot of people are worried that they do, and it's kind of the same thing that I hear when people are like, don't teach kids sex ed because they're going to have more sex.
It's so dumb.
Where it's like, don't even fantasize about it because then it will lead to action, as opposed to, well, to me, a fantasy can help let out steam. Our nervous system doesn't always differentiate, so it's an important way for us to be able to explore things that might not be able to do. And so, you know, I don't discourage fantasies for people in the sex positive approach that I take, but you know, it's figuring out, does this person know the difference between fantasy and behavior? Are they someone who can differentiate those boundaries and those lines of fantasy and behavior? And yeah, I mean, look, fantasy is not illegal. We fantasize about stuff all the time. Like, how often, I mean, it's very different, but how often do you fantasize about someone carrying a big tray of stuff and you're like, I just want to flip that shit over, but you don't always.
And some of those things are like kind of remind me of like the same like intrusive thoughts that I have OCD, like that my intrusive thoughts aren't terribly bad, but like I know some people with OCD have really bad intrusive thoughts, and something like that is like,
and it freaks them out sometimes. Like, does that mean I want to do it? Is this just a thought?
Right.
So, you know, the support I think is around that too. Like, okay, does this fantasy actually mean that I want to harm a child or harm a person? Or is it, can I find a way to ethically and consensually have this fantasy, or, you know, find a way to express that through role play with an adult, or through fantasy, or through dolls, or through non-illegal porn, you know, like drawings and books and things like that.
Drawings. Yeah.
Which freaks some people out because they're like, oh, this is not okay, but it's not.
But it's also like no minors were harmed because we're not using actual human beings in this process. It's just like, it's just imagination.
Is there like comic book kitty porn, or like is that like a thing?
I mean,
like
it should be, because then I would hope it would decrease straight couple?
Straight couple.
Okay, so one of the members, was it the guy?
He had minor attraction and
adult attraction at the same time? Or
Yes.
just...
Are these people coming on anonymously? Or?
Anonymously.
Oh, okay, yeah. And how about the person who
video.
spoke in front of the class? Was that?
Also anonymous.
Yeah.
I mean, people are very anonymous with this.
That's what I was
because
thinking. I was
This
like,
American
they're
Life.
dangerous. Yeah.
Corinne and I both listened to the Tarred and Feathered episode of This American Life, which was such an excellent piece of podcasting and like the power. But the pedophile that was that runs a group, a support group. He had a voice disguise. Fuck, man.
Yeah, people are
That's-
afraid to, and like I said, I sometimes even have anxiety talking about it as a mental health professional because people just, it's very scary for a lot of people. And when we're in our trauma response and fear response, either we go to fight or flight or freeze, and so
That's where that fuck you die reaction comes from.
exactly, because they're like, oh my god, you're supporting harm, and I've been harmed, or someone I know has been harmed, or I want to protect, and like anyone who's putting that into question, like
Is the bad guy.
right?
Well, and even like basically like hunting in quotes pedophiles has become like an internet game. Like it's a popular like YouTube and Instagram Reel, TikTok trend to do these things where you basically catch folks who are chatting with underage people online, and then you show up in the mall parking lot with a camera in their face and like make them call their wives. Have you seen these? Yeah. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, not the therapy approach that I would
Right.
use.
Yeah.
Shamey.
Yeah, like I said, I think shame usually has a backfire effect.
Yeah.
When I'm working with people, not even in this space, around the pedophilia or the minor attraction, but like for anyone who has shame, usually if there's like a little bit level of shame where something can feel sexier, like, oh no, we're not supposed to do that.
Totally.
But then a big level of shame usually has a backfire effect, and then someone ends up doing that behavior more. Like when we're talking about compulsive porn watching or compulsive sex, the shame actually like creates more of the behavior in this like shame
So
spiral.
they're like, I guess if I'm a piece of shit, I'll keep acting like it in a way.
Kind of, yeah.
That makes, I get that. Unfortunately, not with pedophilia, obviously, but like.
Yeah, and so I think like when you're asking what to do with the relational thing in treatment, it's connecting them with community, right? Finding other
That's
support,
key.
finding therapy, finding community group support, finding other people who understand that can support, they can talk to, finding people that are safe to talk to about it.
Did the couple you interviewed on your podcast where the guy was minor attracted and the woman was not, like, did they use role play? How did
They
he
did.
quell that? Okay.
Yeah, they did, and she was into that from her end, so
Right.
it was a good match.
That is a good match. Oh boy, when you kind of share the same, or at least are willing to be a participant in somebody's kink like that, and that's healing.
Did they reveal at what stage in the relationship he let her know that he was minor attracted?
From what I can remember, I think they were friends first, but I think it was a couple months in.
Wow.
How do you say that? Like,
Wow, a couple months
Darling,
in and she stayed. That's very interesting to me.
I would be.
Yeah.
I've never had anything like. I did know a woman. Oh, I know a person who found out her boyfriend at the time was a hebephile, but like I think it was 12, 13 age. I'm like, fuck, dude. He had child porn. He had all this shit.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
different.
what a fuck. Yeah, totally different. So I'm like thinking of somebody being like, hey, it looks like we're developing a bond here. Looks like this is going somewhere. So this is what I need to tell you. I wonder how that would be.
Because I'm thinking, I'm like, a couple months in, I gotta be
Like,
honest, I'm not
see ya.
saying.
But I don't know.
If it's,
You want to know right away.
No. Like if someone revealed that a couple months in, I'm leaving. I gotta be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause I would not have. There's no way I could have developed a bond where it would be worth the price of admission, as Dan Savage would say. If I was a couple years. Now this is just encouraging people to reveal it years in, because I'm like, years in, I'm deeply
I know
in
you're a
love.
good person.
Right? You've never acted on it. No.
Everybody's so different, though.
I'll go to coffee with you. We'll talk about it.
This woman reacted differently. Like, that's very interesting.
Well, look, I think we're naming how ingrained this thing is, right?
Sure.
Even the three of us who are like talking about this much more sex positively than most people would, and I
Right.
hear you kind of believe, talking about some of the things that I preach about, and
Yeah.
even you are like,
If it's a no for you,
I don't
dog.
think I can do that.
I mean, there's a lot lesser things that I would also walk for a couple months in.
Yeah.
Just full disclosure.
But
you
I
know?
look, this is my career, this is my job. I talk about this, and I research this. And if someone said that to me, I'd probably also be like,
Right.
because it's so ingrained.
Dude,
You know?
so
I get that.
It just could really get you in a pickle later on, you know? 'Cause
Yeah.
you can't trust people I mean, it takes so long to develop trust with people, and even then they can still break your trust. So like the trust that would be going on that you would never act on this is maybe a little too much for
For a
me,
couple months.
you know, to ruin my whole life. And ruin,
Right.
and ruin
But
my
there's
child's life.
there's
And then
somebody
maybe- yeah.
for everybody. Like it is cool when two people
Yeah.
come together and you're like, yo,
Good for
you're
you.
you are like kind of happy to explore this with that person.
Sure.
Like, thank God you guys found each other. That's sick.
Yeah, no, it's great for everyone that they found each other.
Yeah, and
Truly.
look,
The
this
kids.
approach is a little different than people who have sex offended, because then usually there's another factor. Like I said, some kind of personality thing going on in combination maybe with the attraction. There's a lot of other risk factors.
Sure.
So that therapy approach might look a bit different, because then we might be looking at some other underlying
Trends. Because you were saying, Corinne, earlier about the sexual orientation. You were like, well, of course it's sexual orientation.
Sure.
I was like, there was another thing that I thought about this, but I forgot it. But it came to me like some people molest kids because they were molested as kids. But then, most people who were molested as kids do not molest children. Because I read a lot of studies on that.
Yeah, there's usually other factors. It's not a correlation. Sometimes maybe we can see a little bit of a correlation, but there's a lot of causation that's been proven.
It's also a little confusing because many times when someone, like say someone was molested as a young person by someone of the same gender, a lot of times then they go on it and explore and like maybe like had heterosexual feelings, but then like kind of identify later as bisexual. Like that's actually explored. I don't know if you watched Baby Reindeer yet.
Oh, yes.
Talking about it in the intro.
But
It
me
is
too. But it's
fun.
but it's
Whoa.
explored a lot in Baby Reindeer, and that, you know that's not that's just kind of like the standout pop culture reference for right now. But that's certainly come out a lot in both media and personal, you know, people I know personally. So then that really makes me question the nature versus nurture, right? It was like, you know, safe and the kind of like the right thought to think that it was, you know, people are born gay. But then you hear stories like this and you go, it seems
Would they
like
have swung both ways and had that not happen?
it almost seems like, and you hate to word it like this, but like it seems like gay can almost be a trauma response in some ways to being molested. It can be gay or certain gay or bisexual behaviors, identifications. Like, have you ever talked about or had any clients that are kind of entering the LGBTQ community like via that way?
Under duress,
Yeah.
in a way.
I've seen like all the above.
Yeah.
And so the way I kind of try to approach it in a sex positive way is like,
Right.
no matter how you got there, like it's valid for you right now.
Yeah.
And we can still explore
Sure.
And so many
what
people.
that means and how that affects people, you know? And same thing with this. Like, I know lots of minor attracted people who do not have a history of trauma.
Right.
I would say the trauma has been they found this out about themselves.
Oh,
and
yeah,
now
yeah,
this is traumatic. Same thing for queer folks. Like, I definitely know people who, you know, I don't know if we could separate the nature and nurture, but
Yeah.
people who obviously haven't had any trauma and they're just gay and they're born, you know, they're born this way.
Oh,
And
sure.
then I know people who are sometimes choosing queer sexual relationships because they've had a lot of trauma in hetero things, and they're like, I feel safer, and maybe I'm a little bit queer. So I've seen it all, and I think it feels valid for that person, regardless of how they got there, and we can work with that.
Sexuality is so interesting to me.
Yeah, and I see the same stuff for, like you said, for things like death fetish, necrophilia,
Necrophilia.
death
Get
fetishes,
into
like,
that.
all these kinds
So
of
wait,
things.
you've had clients that want to fuck a corpse.
I've had clients
bluntly.
along the spectrum of who either want that or just have a fetish fantasy of playing dead.
Ooh, I love. I'm thinking of the Amy Schumer SNL monologue. Like, I love role playing with my husband. I just play that I'm asleep or dead, and he can do whatever he wants. I'm like, I fucking love that.
But see, some people are into it and
Yeah.
don't know they're into it.
Doesn't sound bad.
It sounds fun. It sounds like you're on a roller
As long
coaster
as
ride.
as long as you've negotiated that, don't just
Totally.
go fuck your sleeping partner without talking about it.
Right.
Right, because that's assault, really. Yeah.
Just clarify.
Have you had people come to you that want to actually have sexual relationships with a dead body?
Ooh, I have not had clients like that, but I do have a colleague that helps run the Museum of, not the Museum of Sex, that's here in New York, but the Erotic Heritage Museum in Las Vegas, who writes a lot of books about this. Dr. Victoria Hartman, she was on my podcast as well. And so she's got books and books about research
Books. Wow.
around this.
What a niche,
So
huh?
I haven't had a client who specifically wanted to do that, but I have had death fetishist clients, people who like the role play of killing or being killed vibes and role playing
let's
that.
talk about that. Role play being killed. How do you do that?
Well, it's learning like safety kink BDSM protocol around like how to do certain types of play in the safest way possible. You know, sometimes it's if you're the person maybe wanting to be quote unquote fantasy killed, it's like figuring out, you know, a little bit what you like about it and then playing with that. So if you're like, okay, I want to just be like lifeless and have somebody ravage me or take, you know, full dominance over me without me being able to respond or do whatever, you have a lot of safety and negotiation conversations around, you know, safe words and how do we do this and how will I know if you're enjoying, how will I not know if you're enjoying. So there's a lot of education that I will make sure that people know so that they can do this in a risk-aware, consensual, non-consent way.
So they can really lean in. Like if you check all the safety factors, you're like, and let's go. Because it's like
safe enough.
Sexual kink, like the imagination required and like the type of imagination you enjoy when you're engaging in kinks is just like when you were a kid, like just being lost. It's just being lost in your imagination. It's like one of the most beautiful feelings, whether it's sexual or you're just painting as an adult or a child.
Yeah, I got a lot of people who like the serial killer fantasy too. Like
they want to be killed or they want to kill.
They like want to date the serial killer. Like
ladies,
like do you want to fuck me or kill me? And that's what's success.
I mean, obviously, I think like with like true crime and
People
our
love
obsession with it, we could have, we could figure that.
Oh yeah, there's a whole lot of reasons why people are into it. Some come from trauma reasons too.
Yeah,
everyone loves a bad boy.
Everyone loves a bad boy.
So it's I mean, I've seen it all really at this point.
What kind of things have people come to you with that have really shaped you or have really gone, whoa, I didn't even consider that was going to be a thing that would come across my desk?
In a total like hard left turn, not in this, you know, what we were just talking about space, the thing I see the most right now is people with pelvic pain. So people who experience unwanted pain during sex. And this has kind of shaped a bit of my specialization, and now it's something that I've had some struggles with, and so it's something that has become like a huge passion of mine because of how much it intersects with like systemic issues in our medical space for women.
So are you're approaching it from a mental perspective though, the pain, or
it's usually like a biopsychosocial thing, meaning like sometimes there's a physical cause, but it's impacted by our psychology and by our social cultural experience as well. So it's all the things together. I obviously treat more the mental health side of it, but I also help teach people how to advocate for themselves in a medical space for their physical health. So that's like shaped a lot, I think, of how I practice, and also coming back to what we were talking about before of using pleasure as a healing tool, as opposed to just a thing that you get to have when you're feeling okay, and really using it as the therapy.
So how can you use how do you recommend using it if someone comes in with pelvic pain, or is it just there's too many different types of pelvic pain to kind of whittle it down to that?
I mean, there are many different types of pelvic pain, but I would say in general, it's coming up with creative ways to know that your body is pleasurable now.
Right.
And that there's pleasurable things that you can still do that are still deserving of pleasure, even if penetration or even if certain genital things are currently off the table. And helping people connect with that and feeling deserving of pleasure, like I said, pleasure even now. So really it's like coming up with creative ways to still play, to still engage with pleasure as a tool to get through really hard stuff. Because a lot of people, their kind of pleasure desire or even their libido turns off when they're experiencing pain because their body's trying to protect itself. They're like,
the last thing
that
when you have physical pain, it's like the last thing on my mind is horny. Like the last thing on my mind is being horny. And that's on my mind a lot. So
helping people can reconnect to their pleasure and their eroticism in a different way or a different narrative or a different part to get through hard, painful stuff.
Right. Yeah. And we also get I would say we get a good number of letters from people who are experiencing, and it's usually the woman who has experienced some kind of physical pain and detaches, you know, mentally from sex because of that. And the partner, this is heterosexual usually, it will give them like, you know, a couple weeks, and then after that kind of grows tired with waiting and either gets angry or rude or, you know, that kind of thing, kind of like, what the fuck is, you know, happening here? How do you navigate that kind of situation? I mean, and what is your like advice? I mean, there is a certain amount, you know, obviously like when you're in in a relationship, sex is expected to be a part of it, but like, how long is someone supposed to go without sex? What's the right way to approach it
Yeah.
without being a dick?
Yeah,
I see a
taking it
lot of
personally.
couples who struggle with this.
Yeah.
And I mean, first I always go for community. Like, community is key. There's one that I really liked for this called Tight Lipped. They do like meetups and advocacy all over the U.S. Around this for individuals and couples. They also have like a podcast episode featuring some couples who deal with this. It's different for each partnership. I definitely have a lot of empathy for the partner who's like wanting the connection and not able to get that, as well as the person who does want it but right now maybe isn't physically able. So I think it all comes down to how do we define sex, right? In our culture, it's very much like P in the V, penis and vagina penetration, and that's how you have the best sex. Like, no, that's one way to have sex. So there's a lot of other cool ways to have it non-penetrative, kink and BDSM, exploring non-monogamy, doing other kinds of tantric no-touch. I know you've had some tantric people on the show, but like tantric no-touch energetic sex. Like there's
You can have energetic time. Whoa.
yeah, or people have orgasms with breath work. Like there's all these cool ways to experience pleasure, and sometimes though that does take a bit of grieving, of being like, oh, we're gonna grieve how we want to have sex now.
Yeah, because I'm like, I can see women getting into this.
Yeah.
Honestly, to lay out most of what you just said to like most of the straight guys I know, it feels like
Maybe like
feels like a stretch. We can barely get them to do, you know, level 1 things.
The way I get them in is like, if we more broadly define sex, you're gonna have more sex.
Right.
yeah.
So I kind of think of it as like a return of interest approach, right? If you invest in this, you're gonna have more.
Right.
And so, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. And look, unfortunately, sometimes folks who are in relationship with someone like that, if they're not willing to find the empathy, the compassion to get creative,
Sure.
it's gonna be hard. It might not work. Versus a partner who's supportive and like down to get weird and do some cool out of the box stuff. Like that might be a better match if you're someone who has chronic pain.
Totally. I feel like if like the female partner in a straight relationship like has chronic pain, doesn't want to have sex, like the male partner, you can have there's so many types of people in the world, but there's the men who like that triggers them, like being rejected triggers them.
Yeah.
But then there's the men that like that doesn't trigger them at all, and so they're like, okay, you know, they're like, oh, it's all right, we're not gonna have sex now, it's fine. Like it's always interesting to me when female listeners write in about like their male partners' reactions, because they just cover the whole spectrum, and it's like, wow, if this person, the way this person's handling something is like, you know, becomes a deal breaker, like this is not how all men handle it. It's just like, what are their own individual triggers and how far are they willing to go with the vulnerability.
And look, the partners struggling with it like still deserve support also, and to get couples therapy, to get individual therapy, to figure out how do I deal with feeling rejected, right? How do I deal with sexual tension build up within my body? But like you said, that takes a certain level of person who's like willing to do that work.
Right.
And I can say that they're out there. I've seen them in my practice. I see them in my partnership. But yeah, there's a lot of people who aren't willing to do that, and that fucking sucks.
I wish there was a way to quickly gauge if the person was willing to do the work when you're like in the early phases of dating. I feel like that would save everybody a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I
But
think
they're
now,
really, you can't.
Taylor Swift would never have another album, just, you know.
That's true.
I know.
Gotta
What
learn
would
the
she
hard
do
way.
without breakups? Like, how is she gonna continue to have a relationship? She's gotta have another breakup album.
Yeah, or maybe she releases this a happy love album.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously I help people with a lot of this, and I think I don't know if there's like one short answer to it, but
Is there common misunderstandings you come across
with the pain.
with just with sex, with like sexual misunderstandings, like that you're like, God, if everybody's so blind to this, but it's right here, everybody.
Oh yeah, I mean, first that we all have different like sex blueprints and languages, kind of like love languages. So a lot of people will think like, oh, you're either just like compatible or you're not. Like, no, it's not that simple. We all have so many different blueprints. Or there's a Miss Jaya created this framework called erotic blueprints, where it's like, I don't know if y'all heard of that.
I've heard the phrase erotic blueprints.
It's like different, like I said, love languages or categories, but kind of for your like erotic sexual self.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily about being compatible. It's about learning your language, learning your partner's language, and being willing to like speak each other's language.
Okay.
I think the other myth is like that there's high and low libido people. A lot of people put themselves in categories. It's like, oh, I just have high libido, or I just have low libido. But it's so much more complicated. There's so many factors. Like I said, your blueprint or your language. There's, we've probably talked about this on the show, but spontaneous versus responsive of desire. There's,
Your
what's
your
happening-
diet.
Yeah, what's happening in your life, your hormones, like, are you stressed? So many things. So I like to bust that myth that it's not just high and low. Like, get out of that. And like defining sex in a more broad way, I would say, is another. And yeah, just that like women like sex less than men.
Oh yeah, that's the first one I feel
I'm
like
sure you
Kurt and I
busted
came
that
up against.
myth, yeah.
And I was so naive when we started Guys We Fuck, because I'm like, of course I like sex more than a lot of guys I know. Like,
Yeah.
And then it became clear that most people thought women didn't like sex. I'm like, what the fuck? We were living in two different worlds.
Well, it's good to have other slutty friends. To
Amen.
That's not a
Amen.
thing.
Well, thank you so much for your time. This has been an amazing conversation.
We really fucking covered it all.
We did.
Hit it all.
Where can we get more of you? Where can we find you online? What would you like to promote?
Yeah, thank you. So I have a podcast as well called Sluts and Scholars. Obviously, love
Very in line.
taking back the word slut. It's a podcast for professionals who prioritize pleasure. So interview a bunch of different people whose work kind of revolves around pleasure. You can also follow me on Instagram at Sluts and Scholars or at Therapy with Nicoletta, and there you can find my website and how to work with me.
Yay.
Awesome.
Or
Thank
hopefully send me nice mail, not hate mail for the topics that we covered.
More nice
You
mail.
won't get hate mail from this
Our
podcast.
people are fantastic.
You know what?
Unless
It
someone else
fuels
picks
me.
it up. It fuels me too, honestly. Like I don't know if you saw the roast of Tom Brady when they booed Kim Kardashian. I go, oh, my dream to be booed by that many people in a stadium.
Yeah,
Come
you're
on.
like, this makes me hot.
Oh,
Like, come at me.
I would love it. I was so jealous of her in that moment.
I love that.
All right, thanks so much. This has been Guys We Fuck, the anti-slut shaming podcast. We will talk to you next Friday.
Another thing we don't talk about is like I was extremely horny when I was pregnant.
Ooh, that's fun. See, that
Yeah.
makes me want to have a baby. Okay, guys, we are here with author Molly Roden-Winter. You have a book out right now called More, Memoir of an Open Marriage. I was reading the inside cover, the little flap, and I was like, this is fucking juicy. This feels like a graphic novel. Oh, sorry. This feels like a
No, it's
graphic
right.
novel's about to happen. Can you go over a little bit for us, like, being in an open marriage, being polyamorous, like how that came about?
Yeah, well, it was kind of a long journey to get there. So I didn't use that term open marriage. I certainly didn't use the term polyamorous because one of my initial rules was no falling in love. That was never my
Right.
goal. In fact, I thought loving more than one person was to be avoided at all costs.
Me too. Why did you think that?
I thought that because I thought that meant that there would be not enough love for me if he loved somebody else, or if I loved somebody else, then I would want to leave him.
Right.
And I'd blow up my life.
Yeah.
So either me loving somebody or him loving somebody both seemed really dangerous.
Yeah, that's for sure.
possibilities. Yeah. So poly was never like my goal, and I thought of that as kind of a fringe kind of crazy thing that some people were able to do, and I never would. So like my initial title for the book was actually The Experiment, because that's the way it kind of felt at first, like we were embarking on a sort of dangerous experiment.
That's fun. Keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
That's also how we described this podcast, oddly enough, when we started it. Like, for real,
Really?
we kind of described it as a social experiment because back in the day we were actually interviewing guys we had fucked, guys we had relationships with, the origin. I mean,
And asking like,
but
what
10
went
years
wrong,
later, yeah. So that's very interesting that for you to be sitting here now saying that. Yeah.
Experiments are good. You know what I mean?
They're important.
It's how you
They
arrive
are.
at conclusions.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. It's all very scientific.
Yeah.
I didn't really have like a control group per se, but I'd say like the rest of society might be considered the control group.
Yeah.
Let's see how monogamy's going, and by comparison,
It's not going that good.
yeah, that's kind of my feeling.
So you were out and you were asked out by a guy, and you were at this point you were in a closed marriage. You were monogamous with your husband. You had
Yeah.
kids, right, at
Yep.
the time. And a guy asks you out. You come home and tell your husband, and your husband is like, "Go do it." My heart sank when I read that because I'm like, "Fucking go do it." curious what you felt when you heard that from him first.
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't coming out of nowhere. There was some precedent that was kind of like deeply buried in my memories of our before times, like before we got married, before I had 2 kids. And so when we first started dating, I had like very, very few partners, and my husband had like fuck the city.
It was a male spot.
Yes, very
Love a
much
male
so.
spot.
Yeah. And 5 of his ex-girlfriends were at our wedding, which I thought was actually like a pretty good testament to like people still wanted to hang out with him.
Yeah.
You know? And he always said to me, like, there's no way you're gonna be okay with only sleeping with me for the rest of your life. I was also 5 years younger. And I was like, oh, you know.
What do you mean, mister?
Yeah, I love you, you know. But by the time he was like, go for it, I was like, yep, that's what I want to do.
Oh, okay.
But I hadn't admitted it to myself. So we had been married at that point for 9 years, together for almost 12. I had kids that were 3 and 6, you know what I mean? It's like we had gotten to a place where I was not feeling my best, to put it mildly.
In what way?
I was not, I didn't feel like a whole person. I felt like I was this, I was the role of mother more than anything else.
Yeah.
And so it shocked me actually in that moment when I felt desire. It wasn't just that a guy asked me out, it was that I flirted all night with a guy and was like really experiencing desire for the first time in a long time.
It's so electrifying.
Yeah,
Desire.
Desire, especially because, like, for a lot of moms, they think that is done forever.
Oh, that's a death sentence.
Isn't that sad?
That's terrible.
I know.
Really? They just kind of go, well, I guess that's it?
Well, I'll tell ya. I mean, I feel like this podcast, this episode could be called, like, Reasons to Never Have Children. But, like, yeah. I mean,
a lot of people, say that about what we talk about, but we like to frame it as this is other options available to women podcast.
yeah.
Yes.
I think it's super important because I'm here to spread the gospel that you can be a mother and a whole fucking person. And I feel like that is not something that is even imagined by a lot of women.
Because I don't ever want to lose my relationship with my sexuality. And I know that in 20 years I might think differently. But right now, like, I never want to see, like, seeing myself as a sexual being is not all of who I am, but I would never want to put that on a shelf.
Nor should you. Nor should you.
One of the things that we've talked about, I mean, here's just an example, but like, you know, Kim Kardashian still posting pictures of herself in a bikini. When you look at the comments on Twitter about she should stop doing that because she's a mom, it drives me over the edge. Nothing will make me angrier. And I really loved, I heard your interview on the New York Times Book Review podcast, and when you were speaking about the concept of children, it being important for them to see their parents as whole people, I thought, now that's something I'd like to talk about for an hour. I think that's really, really important, and society just doesn't get it. Like, once you're a mom, and you have to somehow be a different person. You have to be this angelic version. It's almost like we're going back to the purity that you experienced as a young woman, and it's really repulsive, I think, as societally.
I mean, we could talk about it from so many different angles, and it would be the same message that women are being asked to, not asked to, forced to, make themselves smaller and less.
Yeah.
And until we fully, you know, embody our whole selves all the time, right? Not just for a few years, not just when we're, like, out with our friends at the bar, but, like, all the time, society as a whole is going to suffer. Because my belief is that it's feminine energy that's going to save us, and we are being slowly strangled.
I agree with that. Oh, fuck. Damn. That's
Exactly.
heavy, but that's true.
Yeah.
And that's why I was trying to make this a joke a while ago on my set, but like, when women are horny, everyone's happy. Like, when women have a healthy sexual desire and a healthy sex life, when their sex life is going the way that they want it to go, which if they're asexual, they don't want it to go, but like, however they want it to go, if it's going well, the world is peaceful.
Yeah, it's true.
When only men are horny, no one's happy.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I mean, that is just, you know,
But it's like-
a great rule of thumb to live by.
Well, there's
that-
something so powerful about a woman that really, like, makes sure that every area of her life is taken care of, because you don't see it that often.
I have to say, if you haven't read it yet, read Elise Loman's On Her Best Behavior. Her chapter on lust. She interviewed me at my reading in LA, and I was reading her book, watched it on the plane on the way home, and it's freaking amazing.
Wow.
It's all about like the Gospel of Mary Magdalene got buried. Like Mary
Oh,
Magdalene actually was not a whore. She was like, yeah.
She wasn't?
No.
I'm not surprised. I mean,
I know,
that's like
but
the whole
maybe she
premise
was,
for
but
Lena
maybe-
Dunham's podcast. Yeah.
Maybe she was,
Right.
but that was a good thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like maybe
I
don't know.
loved Mary Magdalene because she was a whore.
Right, I know. Like I don't want to. I don't want to
the only
slut
character
shame
living
Mary
the truth.
Magdalene.
Yeah. And Jesus. Yeah.
But my point is that women's sexuality has been revered for millennia, and it's just
So dangerous.
quite recently in human history that it's been demonized, and I think it's time to set the record straight across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
And mothers, it's an easy target. It's like part of the reason that you don't feel very sexual after you have a baby is because you just had a human ripped out of your vagina.
Body trauma.
Right? Yeah.
You need a second.
And it's not like it's all medicalized and it's all, there's a lot we could say about the birthing process. I'm all for all the drugs and all the interventions because I'm not like so into pain.
Your body, your choice.
Exactly. I like the interventions, but I also feel like I was it was kind of this weird thing. This is the other thing I want to say though. I feel like motherhood, another thing we don't talk about is like I was extremely horny when I was pregnant.
Ooh, that's fun. See, that makes me want to have a baby.
And this, thank God my kids will never listen to this podcast, but like I was like close to orgasmic from breastfeeding.
Cool. Really?
Breastfeeding.
But weird.
I know, it's super, super, super weird. And
Did
not
you ask
everybody-
her OBGYN about that? Like, is it? No,
What
you
if they
didn't?
what if they told me it was like bad? Like, no, I was
Right,
like,
right.
I was pretty sure it was nature's way of making sure I didn't starve my babies. Like, I was like,
Oh.
it felt amazing.
Oh,
it
wow.
felt amazing.
Well, I know like, some people can have orgasms from their nipples being touched.
Oh yeah,
stimulated.
I
like,
can.
Wait,
Yeah, sorry.
What? That's so
Yeah,
cool. No.
yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's so.
But I
have you,
couldn't
were you
before.
always like that?
No, it's actually it's become
Interesting.
more recent actually that I've let it happen again, and I never let it happen when my babies were little.
Right.
When I was nursing, it felt wrong.
Sure.
It also felt
Of course,
right. It
yeah.
felt weird.
Yeah, I mean, you're not sexualizing the baby. It's just like, oh, when the baby does this thing, why am I really aroused? Like,
Of course,
Just-
because you're supposed to feed your baby,
right.
and you're supposed to want to feed your baby.
Right.
That's why sex feels good.
Which is right. The baby.
Right? We
right.
forget.
Right,
We
right,
forget
right,
that
right,
sex
right.
feels good and nursing
It's an
feels good.
incentive from the
It's
Lord.
an incentive.
Thanks, Lord. You got our back. Wow, I don't want to come while I'm waiting. It'll make, well, you know what, though? Because the one thing, so every week on the show, I want a kid, and then the next week I don't want a baby for various
fair,
reasons.
Fair. No, I felt that way, all the time.
Yeah. One of the reasons why I'm like, I don't think I want a baby this week is because you gotta get up in the middle of the fucking night to feed it. I'm really cranky and I can't think, but I'm like, that's interesting. If breastfeeding caused some sort of arousal, I can understand. I don't have a baby, but like, you wouldn't sexualize the baby. It's just a feeling that comes with the thing, right?
Yeah.
It would make me get up.
Yeah,
Middle of the night to do it.
There's this thing, where you can like once you figure it out, where you can like lie in the bed and you can just like nurse all night long if
Yeah,
you want to. And
right.
it's just nice.
Yeah,
It's not like it's
open
actually
tap.
having an orgasm. It's just like it's just pleasant.
Yeah.
It's very pleasant.
That's
Now-
good because I feel some people experience a lot of pain while breastfeeding.
And you're not supposed to, so that means that they are not like getting the wisdom they need from the women that they need to get it from. That's
That's got to be interesting to feel like an arousal type of feeling, while also like the power of how beautiful it is to watch the baby that was just inside you get life force food from your body. Like, that's so cool.
It's super freaking cool. And it's really hard because we make it hard in our culture. You know what I mean? It's not like there's space for women to do that or like maternity leave, even though I was a teacher. You know what I
Do you
mean?
have any maternity?
No.
Oh my! You got nice teachers are so abused
I
by.
mean, maybe 2 weeks, but
Oh.
like, yeah, when my mother was
disgusting.
a teacher, and when she had my sister, and when she had me, she only got maternity leave for the weeks she had the flu. She had the flu when she had me.
Oh.
So she got paid because she had the flu, not because she had a baby.
Oh my goodness! Oh my God! This country. Oh.
I know. Anyway, we digress.
Yeah, that's a whole different episode.
I know.
Going
in
in
a lot of
medical
episodes.
industry. Yeah. So yeah, I want to kind of go
back to. There's a lot of interesting parts to this, but I think go back to the part earlier in the conversation where you said when you set out on this open marriage, the number one rule was not to fall in love. That was your cardinal rule. Even hearing someone say that, whether or not I know how it turns out ultimately, but even if I didn't know how it turned out ultimately, to me it's like. Immediately I'm thinking, well, that's an impossible rule to set. Anyone who's ever been in love knows that you really don't have control over it. You can try, you can not act on it, but you can't make yourself stop feeling the love. So did you truly think that you could not have your husband fall in love and that you could not have you fall in love? Did you how are you gonna go about that?
Right?
I'm so curious.
I mean, it doesn't sound real smart, no. And like looking back, part of the reason I wrote the book in present tense was so that I was really like forcing myself to write from that place.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sure it was wishful thinking, but all the other rules we had, I think were just designed to prevent me from falling in love, right?
Right.
So like, or to prevent him from, so like no dating the same person twice in 1 week, or no sleepovers, or no, you know what I mean? It was like designed to kind of minimize all the contact that existed
The
outside of
intimacy,
the intimacy. Yeah.
It's such a, you really got to contend with your own ego when you're like, am I my husband's favorite person? Because I fucking better be.
Yeah.
Like, what? I want to be your favorite. Even if you fall in love with other people, I'm your favorite.
Yeah.
And if that ever changes, we're not together.
But don't you have a little bit of an interest, like for me, like I like to leave it on the table. I go, yeah, I like to be like, yeah, try and fall in love with somebody else because I don't mind if that is there for them because I want to feel so certain that I'm their favorite person that even if they come into contact with other people that they really like, that I still will remain like rather than like hiding my husband or my partner from the world.
Well, for sure, but I know the way men are, when you get a crush, when you get a crush, it's so electrifying, it's all consuming. I couldn't imagine paying attention to my husband while also being in love with somebody else. I'd be like, you don't exist to me right now, husband, because I want to lean into that.
That is short-lived though. Like of course in polyamory they always have terms for everything, and in the ethical slut, which I was reading, not at the beginning, but during my journey, there's something called new relationship energy, and it doesn't make it any easier to know that, but it's like, duh, of course there's new relationship energy, like all the good things and none of the bad things.
You don't know their flaws yet.
And once I've rode that wave so many times now with my husband and he has with me, that like it's still lovely to feel it, but I don't feel, I think what you're describing, Corinne, is like very healthy self-esteem actually. It's like,
Wow, you nailed it.
It's the only time
Everybody.
it's a pretty freaking big one. Well done.
Which I can't get, but other than that.
Hey, you can. You just got to
Wow, you don't even have like an inflated sense of self. You know that you can't sing.
I can't say I know.
You're the first guest to come on and really get Corinne right. You don't even know her. That's awesome.
All right. Well done. Unless you're mocking her.
No.
No, I really mean that. You're just cocky. You're just saying that.
No. Good self-esteem goes a long way. I did not have such self-esteem, and I thought, oh no, he's not going to love me enough, and he's going to love somebody else. But that was what my journey really ended up being, a discovery that, I can't outsource love. I can't outsource my self-esteem. I can't outsource my happiness. If I can't give these things to myself, I will never have them. They'll be fleeting, no matter who I think is giving them to me or should be giving them to me.
Yes.
So that's really, spoiler alert, that's kind of where I landed. And I had to show in the book how that happened because it kind of felt like magic. I was like, felt counterintuitive. Like, how did that happen? And part of my wanting to write the book was also my wanting to trace how the hell did I get from there to here, I wasn't sure.
Well, another interesting part is that your parents had an open marriage that you learn about after the birth of your oldest child.
Yeah, I learned about it a year before he was born.
Okay.
But I didn't talk to my mother about it until after he was born. Because I just held on to it because my aunt told me that she had had an affair. And my mother used the word affair too. They also didn't use the term open marriage. They felt like they were inventing something new.
Oh, that's cute. Right, so it feels more holistic.
Plus, she grew up in a world where women were treated like way more trash than we are now.
Yeah,
My God.
yeah, very likely.
Like,
yeah.
truly, go home and clean. What are you doing with those dreams?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for real. I mean, she didn't start therapy until I told her she had to after she got diagnosed with Parkinson's. Like, I don't know, maybe 10 years
Plus,
ago.
your parents are really evolved.
They are.
Your mom specifically.
My mom is very involved. She's also she is such a big fan of she's simultaneously terrified, or was terrified. She's getting a lot better with it. It's only been out for a month, but terrified about my writing the book, and also so proud of me and excited for me that I am able to do this.
Is she projecting her own fears based on having lived a similar life? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, she's afraid of what people think, and she doesn't understand that about herself. We have a lot of conversations about little self, big self. Like, your little self is afraid. Your big self feels like pride and certainty in your choices, and has a beautiful worldview. But I think it's this constant battle that, it's a human thing, not just a female thing, but maybe females get it a little harder. This battle between little self, big self.
Oh, yeah.
It's a conversation we have a lot.
Wow.
Do you think, I mean, was there something in the air in the household you grew up in? Is there
Kids can sense
can this be genetic? I just find it fascinating that you kind of for you to want to be in an open marriage and your parents to be in an open marriage. It feels like almost like a nature versus nurture conversation, even though I don't think that it is. But was there, looking back now on how you were raised, the conversations that were happening in your household, is there any signs of why you might have chosen this?
Yeah, I've thought about it. I mean, my sister definitely no. Like my parents, my mother told my sister when the book was gonna come out. You know what I mean? I was like, you've got to tell my sister, because they'd never talked about it. So sex was not a conversation. The one thing I will say is that I knew that my mother had a special friendship with a man. And it's a guy, Jim.
Mommy's special friend.
Right. And my
Usually
dad.
it's a lady named Cindy.
Yeah, right. But I feel like there was something about that friendship that that I did kind of aspire to. You know what I mean? There was something freer about
Maybe
her.
you noticed too. Yeah, I was just gonna say, maybe you noticed your mom was a little happier when the special friend came around.
Yeah.
Okay, I like this new mom.
It was especially, I have a scene in the book where she's on the phone with him, like a flashback. Like, she would laugh in a very specific way with him, and he cracked her up like nobody else. And it was like landline days. So she'd be like sitting at the phone table, just like unable to breathe because she was laughing so hard.
The phone table, I love
Yeah, I know, and they still have the phone table.
I have one in my house I grew up in. I love it. It brings back very more memories.
Even though they still have the cordless, but but they still stand right next to it, the cradle, because they're in their 80s. But anyway, but there's a sweetness to that, and my father also, although he doesn't tell me much, I did learn a little more in the last few months about his past relationships, and they both have people in their lives that they were once intimate with that are friends now. And I think there's something about that. And